everybody can do something to keep themselves protected. So he said, this is what he said. The arrival of the vaccine does not mean that we drop our guard. We are not yet out of the woods. The world does not have enough vaccine at the moment for everyone. So that means that you still have to make sure you're taking care of yourself, because you're not going to get the vaccine and be protected immediately. All right. So the vaccine is to arrive tomorrow, and it'll comprise of 1.02 million doses. And this is the first batch of the 4.1 million that is expected. Ultimately, the country plans to import 24 million doses, which will see just about 12 million people vaccinated. The next dose, or rather the next consignment, will be told. They will tell us when the next ones will come. It'll arrive, and health workers in the 47 counties will be amongst the first who will get them. Frontline workers, including security personnel and teachers, will also benefit from the first batch. So
from the first batch of a million.
The first batch of 1 million, yes.
Are we getting 2 jabs or 1 jab?
Well, so this first batch, 1 will be administered. What they're saying is that these folks who will now get from the second batch out of the initial 4 million will get their second batch. What they want to do is make sure that they are done with the 2 doses that are required for this first batch of people. And then now they will start going into the other categories.
Okay. Other people will get it.
Yes. So, just so you know, the vaccines will be procured through UNICEF, who are expected to manage the shipment up until delivery. Once cleared at the port, the vaccines will be transferred to the central vaccine stores in Kitengela and subsequently to the 9 regional depots around the country. Those depots are Nyeri, Meru, Nairobi, Nakuru, Eldoret, Kakamega, Kisumu, and Garissa. So 479 level 4, 5, and 6 hospitals have been selected to be used as dispensation centers for the vaccine. Amongst them, 105 of them are private. So, according to the head of the National Vaccines and Immunization Program, and that's Collins Tabu, we are expecting 4.1 million doses of the vaccine. The first shipment will be of 1.02 million. They're going to maintain the storage between 2 to 8 degrees Celsius from the manufacturers, transportation and distribution process, depots and service delivery points as they wait to be administered. So they're going to be able to maintain that temperature which they're looking for. They'll be kept at a cold storage at the airport before they're cleared and moved to the national and regional distribution depots. They expect to receive the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccines. This is what will fit in our storage range for deployment. So it'll be a bit of a surprise if they don't get the AstraZeneca and they get something else, right? Is what they're expecting to get. The chair of the COVID-19 task force said that both private and public hospitals will be used to carry out the vaccination. So this is another interesting but important point. Vaccination in public hospitals will be free, while modality of standard pay in private facilities is still being worked on to prevent exploitation.
Okay.
Can I ask a question, please?
Of course.
We understand, if we were to look at the global trend, is that the focus is on vulnerable people with pre-existing conditions.
And then frontline workers, health workers,
Yes,
security personnel,
yes.
and teachers.
Yes. Now, that is what is considered the norm.
Yes.
But how exactly do we plan to do it in the country?
That's what was going to be my next.
There's a plan, and that plan, when the cabinet met last week, they looked at that plan and they said, yes, this is a very good plan. So there's a plan.
Yeah.
That's been sanctioned at the highest decision-making organ of the country.
Okay. Health is devolved, is it not?
Yeah.
Yes.
So if it's devolved, then I would like to take the view that this process of vaccination will also be devolved.
Maybe or maybe not. Maybe the National Emergency Committee will still manage it.
Yes,
In some way.
but it's not as though everybody around the country is going to come to Nairobi to get vaccinated. are
No.
they?
No, it'll be distributed across the
The national campaign.
That is devolved. It wouldn't help if they perhaps mentioned not necessarily where they want to start with, but how they want to go about it.
It would help, you say. You mean?
Yes, it would help if they have a plan. Yes, so they say. But in terms of planning and in terms of ensuring that the numbers that they hope to reach are actually reached, it would I think be a good idea if one had an idea of what it is that they're planning to do and how it is they're going to use the existing human resources and the facilities that we have in the country to do this very same thing.
Yeah, you see, and this is a problem because once you're not open about something like this from the very beginning, from the get-go, right? Can you imagine the speculation that is going to go on in the minds of people? You have 1.02 million coming in tomorrow as an initial number. You're not telling people how many...
That is only 600,000 people who can be vaccinated.
Right, but you're not telling people where it's going to go, where it's going to start from, who then, do you go line up? Do you now walk in with your badge or your ID? What is it that you do? So then, how are you going to say, Eric went to this point, got his vaccination, Ndu says she didn't, CT said he did, someone says he didn't. In terms of, accountability, in terms of what's happening, I think that's why you give information in the first place. So that people know, people have an idea, people are aware of what has actually happened with this first batch.
That's why you say, if you know, you know. Those that need to know will get to know. See, the first batch is healthcare workers.
For frontline workers.
Yeah,
Yes.
the frontline workers. Well, 600,000, we are talking about mainly healthcare workers. We wouldn't even get to start dealing with the security workers and
No.
teachers.
No.
Teachers are already over 600,000. So let's just say, first line, doctors, nurses, clinical officers, such people working in the healthcare facilities. So they'll be told, kwa hiyo hospitali mnapigwa chanjo kesho.
They'll know.
Yeah, they will know. And then when the second batch comes, those who need to get vaccinated will get vaccinated. And then word will start going around. Okay. Oh, yeah. Actually, I know a doctor who told me that he got vaccinated. Or I know a nurse who told me he got vaccinated. A clinical officer who says she got vaccinated. And then we continue. This is Kenya. They never lose hope.
This isn't so much a matter of
Things happen.
either gaining or losing hope. It's just hoping a little more that something that has eluded us for a long time, that an opportunity like this which has presented itself may open up as doors to a certain level of openness. Okay? COVID is something that is in the hearts and minds of most Kenyans. It's something that bothers them. If you have the information, where's the difficulty in actually issuing out the information?
Yeah.
Remember, my position has been, from January, if we're going to get the vaccines in April, just say April. If it's June, say it is June. Okay? Because this next week has been next week for the last 3 weeks.
Yes. Now it's tomorrow.
Now it's tomorrow.
Hayawi. Mushowe hua.
Let me give you some numbers really quickly about who's getting vaccines around the world, right? According to the World Health Organization's wealthy nations are hoarding vaccines. Let's look at what they've been able to procure for themselves. The European Union, 1.8 billion, have ordered enough doses to vaccinate its population 2.7 times over. The US, 1.2 billion, has ordered enough doses to jab its population 2 times over. The African Union, 672 million. Its dose order is enough for just 38% of its population. We're looking at the entire continent. The UK, 457 million doses, has ordered enough doses to jab its population 3.6 times over. Canada, 338 million, has ordered enough doses to vaccinate its population 5 times over. Australia, 124 million,
That's it.
has ordered enough doses to jab its population 2.5 times over.
Good.
India has ordered 116 million, would reach just 4% of its population.
Why are they competing with us?
Why is India competing?
At least we are
with us
better
in
than
Africa?
India.
Oh, wow, okay. Better than a sub.
My friend, the population of that country,
It's a billion, just like us, Africa.
no, they're 1.2, boy. That 200 million, I know it's 0.2, but there are many.
Quite some.
We're
Right, so this is
slightly
what we're
more in
looking at.
Africa.
The World Health Organization
the
is
same.
not really happy with this, and they're saying this should not be the case. But hey, what are you going to do?
Actually, I don't understand why this is, what the fuss is. Yes, call it hoarding, call it vaccine nationalism, call it what you like. But look, these guys are prepared to look after their citizens, and they're doing precisely that.
Absolutely.
Yeah? What's the biggie? South Africa began this process of vaccination a while back, not yesterday. Ghana are starting, is it this week? Yes. So countries have had an opportunity to be prepared.
as my mother would say, when they were ringing bell for you to go to school, did I say you shouldn't go?
Yes, because if you think about it, in all honesty, this even goes as far as even trade is concerned. We have an African Union. This COVAX thing was a good thing because you negotiate as a continent. It gives you better negotiating power. But the implementation of that negotiation,
Totally different.
Yeah, you go to the table and someone tells you, you're a junior partner in this table. Karibu, once we finish talking, we'll talk to you.
yeah, you just drink tea, but don't eat bread.
Have some tea. Do you know this one? This is called a sausage.
Yes.
Have some.
What you do, have a look at it, okay? And then we will tell you when
we'll talk to you
later.
Yeah. 17 minutes after 6. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. We're live streaming on SpiceFM KE, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, wherever you are. Would like to hear from you as we go into this break and then look at the headlines. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life 24/7 around the world non-stop. This is Spice FM.
The realest and craziest couple are now on your screens. Terrence and Chebi are bringing you top celebrities and trendsetters on Thursday Night Live. It's double the fun and double the laughter every Thursday at 10 p.m. on KTN Home.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise.
You're listening to Spice FM.
Japan, biotechnology, yes! Hey, Samuel, are you into business now? What are you importing from Japan? Knowledge! I'm going to study biotechnology in the best university in Japan. I applied and ta-da! Japan? Yes! You will have to first learn Japanese. No, my friend. They have more than 850 courses that are provided in English and very affordable. Hey, how do I apply? Kuja Osome Japan. Study in Japan Global Network Project brings you an opportunity to study in Japan. Log on to www.studyinjapan-africa.com and apply to study in Japan with over 100 universities providing cutting-edge science and technology courses including the field of robotics, artificial intelligence, AI, environmental studies, information technology, and many more. Not only postgraduate but undergraduate level is also covered. Mention our course, you will not fail to get it. Visit our website today on www.studyinjapan-africa.com.
All right, Monday morning, we're looking at clear conditions in Nairobi, at least for now. 16 degrees. It's going to go to highs of 28 today. Going to be quite warm for the capital, coming back down to lows of 15. We're looking at clear conditions in Nyeri at 12, highs of 26 and lows of 13. And in Nakuru, it's mostly cloudy at 15 degrees, highs of 29 today and lows of 15. 26 will be the high in Eldoret, where it's 11 at the moment, and clear, coming back down to lows of 15. Clear conditions in Kisumu at 19, highs of 31 and lows of 21. Kampala is mostly clear this morning at 18 degrees, highs of 32 and lows of 17. Partly cloudy conditions will be recorded throughout today in Mombasa, 25, highs of 32, and in Malindi as well, partly cloudy at 25, going to highs of 31. We'll see highs of 28 in Kampala, it's mostly clear at 20. Partly cloudy conditions in Dar es Salaam at 27 degrees, highs of 32. 22 will be the high in Johannesburg, it's mostly clear at 10. Cloudy conditions in Lagos this morning, highs of 33. We'll see highs of 34 in Kinshasa, where it's clear at 25. Sunny conditions going out east into Beijing, it's sunny at 3. That'll be the high for today, coming down to lows of -5. It's a chilly morning in Paris, 3 degrees, highs of 14 today and coming down to lows of 2. Where in London, cloudy conditions will beckon in Monday morning, highs of 9 and lows of 4. And rain showers, New York, Sunday night. Coming into chilly Monday morning, highs of 8 and lows of 6.
Spice FM. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice.
6 o'clock. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. It is time for us to see who is online.
All right, so Shirage says, good morning. How is March? Mwaka isimame nilambe glucose. He's about to board the train this morning. So what Ebubere Mumias Nikondani, and that's Faristo Muganda. Good morning. The weekend was fantastic, says Michael Ching. McDonald Makanga says good morning, team. He's tuned in from Kilifi. Hennepin in the US is where Waterman Jeffries tuned in from, says good morning, folks. Beijing is listening, according to Master Dan. Lawrence Carrier says he's sorry that he was not with us last week. He says, it's got to be an integral part of my life now, the Situation Room. Happy to be here and good day. Same to you, sir. Benson Mumo is tuned in and says, happy new month. And Minnesota is waking up, according to Isaac Abuero. Harold Ayodo says, good morning. How I wish the 1.2 million coronavirus vaccines would be distributed amongst the 47 counties to cater for the vulnerable. Otherwise, they will only remain in Nairobi for the privileged. Interesting. Cyprian Morris says, good morning, new month, new goals. How are you guys doing? And Leban Tunui Kapte is locked. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, and thank you very much for tuning in this lovely Monday morning, first day of March. City?
Right. When the shepherd comes home in peace, the milk is sweet.
When the shepherd comes home in peace, the milk is sweet. So what's the correlation between the shepherd and the animal?
Well, it is really not... The animal is just part of the analogy. What is under discussion here is the shepherd's attitude. If you're in a foul mood, everything is foul.
Okay. So why would the animal give you foul milk?
The animal doesn't give you foul milk.
No, there are just certain conditions that are necessary to be able to produce milk. And if you have a stressed situation, you can't. The animal would not be able to produce. So if the shepherd who is tending to you is in a good mood, then you also are in a,
Good mood and
good
a good
mood, and then
productive
you
mood.
produce the milk that they're looking for.
Nice.
Yes? No? Yes?
Yes, yes.
Yes, yes. Okay, let's look at the headlines.
All right. The front page of the Daily Nation. Exams crisis over missing candidates. Crisis. Serious one there. Where are they is the question. Hundreds of students will not write their KCPE and KCSE national examinations because they dropped out of school at the 11th hour. Head teachers cannot account for those who failed to report back to school in October. And this is causing a bit of panic in the education ministry because they're asking the questions, where are they? How can we find them? And how will they then be able to transition to the next level? So there are concerns. And we're talking about hundreds of students here. Head teachers and principals cannot account for the whereabouts of the candidates who neither turned up last October when candidates were recalled, nor in January when schools reopened fully. The unfolding situation raises fears that the number of candidates who might miss the examinations this year will be higher than in previous editions. The KCPE and KCSE exams begin this month, but the tests for secondary students will spill over until April. The exams were postponed last year because the coronavirus pandemic occasioned closure of schools for 8 months. A spot check across the country shows that despite spirited efforts by the Ministry of Education and that of Interior and Coordination of National Government to trace learners after the long break, thousands are yet to go back to school. So we're looking at thousands now. And this is coming from these two ministries. Some of them dropped out altogether, although government officials were cagey about releasing the official data. Some of the candidates failed to report back when schools partially opened in October, while others did not show up in January. Investigations show that many of the missing girls got married, have given birth, or are currently pregnant. Boys were said to have mostly dropped out to seek employment in casual labor, while the border sector is being blamed for luring them away from school. School heads associations and officials contacted said they also do not have the data. The North Rift region seems to be the most affected, where boys are reported not to have gone back to school after undergoing circumcision. In Baringo South Sub-County, about 20 KCSE candidates and an unknown number of KCPE candidates are yet to report to school since learning institutions reopened last month.
Okay. It was expected, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, this is what we expected after a long time out of school, and we saw that many things happened as a result of that. We had the pregnancies, we had, those who sought employment because, things became quite difficult to be able to handle. The concern coming from the Ministry of Health is that, so what are they going to do? These students who would not sit these exams, what happens by the time they are able to get a hold of them? And are they going to then be able to transition, especially for those who are going to sit their KCPE?
Well, it's clear that the education officials have a finger on this, and they know exactly how the number of students who are supposed to be in school and they're not in school, which also tells you that the administration officials also know the students and where they come from and what's happening, and that's why they're able to tell that some of them it's because of marriage, others it's because they basically just after circumcision they became adults and they went into business or other income generating activities. So the question is, what has the government done to try and bring them back or encourage them back into school or to understand where they are coming from? What is it that we can do then to facilitate you getting back to school? If it's those that are married, if those that got pregnant during the time, we spoke with some headmistress who was telling us how they are actually able to cater for those. In some schools where they are providing for the children to come back, and then they're able to give them nutritional needs and understand that, yes, you are a nursing mother and this how we shall work together to help you come back to school and survive in school. So what is it that
See, the one change that has actually taken place, which is positive with regards to the girl child, is that pregnancy does not mean a termination of your educational pursuits.
Yes.
No. And schools are taking steps to ensure that that education continues. Yes, like if you give birth, they will try and get you enrolled in a school that is close to you so that you can look after your child and at the same time attend classes. Yes. It's a positive thing, and at least it guarantees that someone still has hope in pursuing whatever dream they had that was supposed to be provided for them through, should we say, their educational pursuits. However, if I were to look at the front page of The Nation, the writers of this particular piece say that it wasn't actually possible to get official numbers of missing candidates from the Ministry of Education. So some of the figures that were being given are at best anecdotal. What is a fact is that there are many people, many young people who had been in school before who are no longer in school and didn't report back. Yes.
That is a fact. We'll be looking at this story in detail in the next hour to have a conversation around it. What is it that's happened? Maybe what could have been done to help the students get back to school, help the students go and sit their exam and see what can be done to assist them. Now that it's not happening, exams are in a couple of weeks' time. It's taken so much time since the candidates came back to school. And if all this time they haven't actually been in school, then it just tells you something. They've dropped out. 6:30. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. It's the Situation Room. Keep it right here for more headlines.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
Japan, biotechnology, yes! Hey, Samuel, are you into business now? What are you importing from Japan? Knowledge! I'm going to study biotechnology in the best university in Japan. I applied and ta-da! Japan? Yes! You will have to first learn Japanese. No, my friend. They have more than 850 courses that are provided in English and very affordable. Hey, how do I apply? Kuja Osome Japan. Study in Japan Global Network Project brings you an opportunity to study in Japan. Log on to www.studyinjapan-africa.com and apply to study in Japan with over 100 universities providing cutting-edge science and technology courses including the field of robotics, artificial intelligence, AI, environmental studies, information technology, and many more. Not only postgraduate but undergraduate level is also covered. Mention our course, you will not fail to get it. Visit our website today on www.studyinjapan-africa.com.
Spice FM. Spice up your life. Traffic.
All right, so we're looking at moving traffic this morning on Thika Road. Is not too bad, coming from Allsops towards town. Then slows down quite some on Thika Road today. The service lanes, however, are moving without too much of an issue. Let's take a skip out then into Mombasa right now. All ferries are up and serving this morning at the Likoni and Tongwe channels. You need to remember that *721# is how you will pay the ferry toll, not via cash, only via M-Pesa. If there's traffic loading, it's because folks have not remembered that. Ferry service is trying to remind you every day that you must pay for the ferry toll via M-Pesa. All right, Mombasa Road is slowing down, and everybody's saying their Monday morning prayers that this will not be too crazy. All the way from the Way Bridge at Mlolongo, it moves very, very slowly out towards General Motors. It's not moving fast at all. Let's take a look at what it looks like in about half an hour around the rest of the city. For now, it's moving. SpiceFM KE, get to us on Twitter, text on 40127, and let's see how Monday is going to turn out.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.
Kenya's biggest conversation. What is Shurage Moai saying? Shurage is saying, C.S. Mutahi Kagwe is saying we shouldn't let our guard down. Maybe he's in Rwanda, not in Kenya.
Which God?
No, the point that the CS is making is a valid one. Yes.
We should never have let our guard down.
It's
That's
a reminder.
What we should be saying.
It's a constant reminder about what happened to that notification they used to give us on a daily basis.
It still issues you. It's still issued. The number of cases.
No. The notification of the number of cases, I understand. But was that not the platform from which all manner of things that are COVID-related were supposed to be undertaken? You know, if you'd say this on a daily basis, forget the numbers. Folks, remember to do this, and you say something else. Is that also not the platform from which you can talk about the distribution and the this? Because it's a platform that people have come accustomed to.
Okay. Will they listen?
That is not the point. The point is, they will listen when they want, but you just do your job and speak.
Which is why Shurage is saying this man is not in this country. This one. What? You're telling us that people keep wearing masks. Where are masks being worn as we speak today? Apart from when you're just about to enter an office, that's when you put on a mask. Okay, let's look at other headlines. The purveyor of the bird and the grim. Woman beheads her son for refusing to breastfeed. This is a story on the 12th page of the Standard today. It says, a woman beheaded her 1-year-old son for refusing to breastfeed. This incident happened in Ngope village in Diwa sub-county on Saturday at 9 p.m. And it was triggered when the baby cried incessantly due to discomfort. The angry mother decided to breastfeed the baby in order to calm him down, but he continued to cry. The 23-year-old threw the baby down on the floor, fetched a panga, slit the neck, killing the baby on the spot. Residents tied the woman's hands and alerted area assistant chief. The rescued woman, he rescued the woman from the irate residents who wanted to lynch her. See that story? This is your own child. Baby cries, baby cries, baby cries. You try to breastfeed the baby. Baby continues crying. Clearly, there's something else that's causing the baby discomfort. You do not understand. You put the baby down in such frustration, anger, whatever is happening. Pick up anger. Slit the throat.
That, my friend, is what is described as rage.
Yeah.
And in other circumstances, it is also described as temporary insanity.
And it had nothing to do with the baby.
No.
Absolutely nothing to do with that child. Had everything to do with what the mother may have been going through or her current condition. But that child was just an avenue through which to show what she was going through or what she was being dealt at that moment.
The moment, it wasn't at that moment. That moment is when things came to a head. But whatever burden she had been carrying had been there. Now, you cannot rule out the relationship between what she was feeling and the child. You cannot. There's what the child represented. Maybe something that she wanted to do and couldn't do. Maybe the father of this child. Maybe just her lack, her inability to provide.
To provide for the child.
Yes, it has to do with the personal frustrations that she had, and which the crying child who refused to breastfeed now simply helped tip.
It is so sad.
Is this not a continuation of everything that we've been saying?
Oh, my goodness.
What sort of pressure must this mother have been in? This is a 1-month-old baby.
Yeah.
Is it a 1 year? Sorry. What pressure was she under?
A lot of pressure that could have been detected. Of course, I'm sure if you have a conversation with the villagers, they'll tell you what kind of situation that she was in. They'll tell you. And the fact that we comes back to that point. We have a social services state department, okay? And maybe this is where now we should be looking at. So how do you, if you have an issue like this and you're feeling that you're getting to your wit's end, what do you do? Who do you turn to? Where do you go? Do you have a government that you can actually turn to and ask for support?
Well, absolutely. I think that is where now you see things like social protections coming into place, where you have welfare, when you really do have a functioning welfare system. Because if you look at other societies, and we still have to continue to look at the examples of where it actually works, because the question is, are there places on the globe whereby you would have a solution for things like this? Absolutely there are. There are places, there are countries that the welfare system is set up that you can actually go in and get counseling that is funded and supported by the government, that you even have a child that you cannot take care of, the state will take that child for you, whether it is for a period of time or whether it is a permanent situation. But there are very many solutions for things like this. And unfortunately, we have too many of them, of cases like this ending in death that are unnecessary. Very many situations that end in a manner. I mean, if you just want to look at the grotesque manner in which this child was killed and the method that the mother chose, everything indicative of the kind of frustrations that she has.
There's another story on page 3 of the Standard. This is not a current story, but it's a report of what's happening in court. Because on January 23rd, 2016, 2 brothers are alleged to have killed their uncle after he demanded to know why they had not returned to school a week after reopening. Okay. The suspects lived the victim who took them in after their parents died, according to Ronald Gona, who testified in the case in which the siblings have been charged over the death of Kalama Fondo. So this witness was telling the court that the suspects dumped their clothes, some which had blood stains, in a latrine after the incident. They have denied this case. Villagers and other residents are thinking that probably these boys were acting because of a feud that existed between their uncle and their late father. Their father died, there was land dispute, and now they probably were feeling mistreated by their uncle. So this point in time, he's coming to ask them, why haven't you gone back to school? They took action and they offed him. Never ask us this kind of question again. Cases in court. These are, there were school-going children. That means they were children.
They were adolescents?
Yes.
Or is it primary or is it secondary school?
Not yet known here. It's not reported in this particular story how old the boys were. Okay, let's look at another story. Now those 2
My goodness.
bad news stories.
You know, there's something that we keep saying here, but perhaps I don't think we say it clearly enough. We use the phrase a ticking time bomb, but most of us in our lifetime will see the activation of a bomb in a movie. We will read about it, but we will never actually understand the devastating effect of what a bomb actually does.
Yeah.
The process, because as it blows up, we call it blowing up, what it actually does and why it is so disastrous, depending on the sort of bomb it is. Beginning with the fragmentation of whatever it was made of and how that causes death, because if it finds a living body, it'll pierce that body and it'll harm the body. These things we keep talking about on the show, these are signs of a ticking time bomb. Because if you look at the cases on and this one is daily basis, they're all over the country.
Yeah.
The only thing that you may consider a difference is the bizarre nature of each of these cases. Someone killing their father, children killing their uncle, mothers
Father
killing
their son.
father killing family, then killing himself. It goes on and on and on. And what is certain is the frequency with which we are now reporting them, which also, to me, is indicative of the frequency with which they are now occurring.
Yeah.
Now, look at the solution. Every time such a thing happens, irate villagers want to kill this person.
That's their solution.
So you ask yourself, is it that they don't understand that perhaps this person who has committed this atrocious act may actually be in need of help? Why is it that killing is the thing that is at the foremost of our minds? Why? The mother has killed the child, kill the mother.
Yes.
I think there's an absolute degeneration of solution-seeking ideas. It has completely dialogue has completely gone out the window.
If someone shouts "Mwizi" and you're pointed, you're dead.
That's it. You're gone.
Nobody bothers to find out if you stole anything. No,
did you steal?
You are dead.
As morbid as it sounds, think about it. And I don't know, I mean, a psychologist, someone who studies the mind would have to tell us, I don't know that it would be completely true. But think about it, that death brings about a permanency.
Yeah.
Death brings about a permanency that nothing else can. You never have to go about that particular problem. You're not going to have to deal with it anymore. You're not going to have to talk about it anymore. It's not going to rear its head. At that point, those who are taking a life are not thinking about the consequences of that action. They're thinking about the resolving of this problem that seems to have been a thorn in their flesh forever. It sounds really morbid that the answer that you then look for is death.
Permanent solution.
But it's a permanent solution. Think about it. That person with all their drama is never going to come at you again. This child, unfortunately, who was screaming, who is not going to feed, and that's the only way of sustenance that you provide as a mother, guess what? Is never going to cry
But ask
again.
yourself a question. You have a child. Okay, we don't know whether she had other children. The child is refusing to eat. Something's wrong with the child.
Yes.
Of course. But at that point, her frustration has so clouded what would be an easy solution. It could be something very simple. Maybe the child needed a wash. Maybe
That's
the
it.
child needed a change.
That's it.
Maybe the child just needed to be pampered a little bit, then to feed.
Yes.
She was at that point not thinking about that solution. She's hearing the crying and it's mixing with her already clearly, sky-high frustration. Get rid of this cry permanently. And she did.
I once had a conversation with a colleague of mine about, we're talking about, same thing. You're sitting, someone reads the paper and says, hey, look at what happened in mob justice. And he said, if I hear people shouting Mwizi, he said, I will run in that direction. I asked him why. He said, I want to see who the thief is. I said, but when you shout Mwizi, doesn't mean somebody has stolen. We've gotten to a point in this country where the Mwizi is the one who will probably be clever enough to shout Mwizi first. And since you're running towards them, it'll appear that it is you who is the Mwizi. He says, no. When he remembers, there was a time, and it happened when he was a young person. He was pickpocketed. Those were days when, before you entered into the system, you were paid a salary in an envelope. And the gentleman had put it in his back pocket. It all went.
It went.
So, as far as he's concerned, so ask him, okay, so when you get there, what do you do? Say, I look for space so that I can also kick the person. I said, you do what?
You have to participate.
He said, no, for that loss of that money of mine.
That person who was telling you that, they represent very many other people. People who have suffered. People who have been victim of thieves. Either pickpocket or you've been attacked at home. My friend, the next time you hear there's a thief, you want to participate. Because of what you went through. Now, he was pickpocketed. He lost everything. He worked for an entire month. The next month, you don't have rent, you don't have transport, you don't have food, nothing.
It was his second salary. The first one, it was okay. It was his second one.
Guy.
And it was a Saturday. I didn't even have the heart to ask him, why were you carrying all your money in your pocket?
But you've just been given.
He was
You were
given-
just paid,
He was paid.
and you were not able to pass
Saturday
through the
half
bank
day.
to deposit
That's the day
it.
you go and you get paid.
And the bank is
You don't have
closed
a
by the
bank
time you're
account
done.
even.
bank account you needed. Those days,
Passbook.
no, you needed to be introduced. You didn't
Yes.
just open a bank
You just
account.
open.
You need to be introduced.
Let's take a break. 14 minutes to 7. Good morning. Tengisa kidole, tengisa kidole, agano kidole, agano kidole, agano. Thank you.
The political class, the contestants, everybody is trying to outsteal the other.
Remorse is not taught in any school. Manners is something you get from your mother. You don't get it from your political party.
Why are we so unfocused as a country? Why are we spending money and resources, yet we have real challenges in this country?
This coronavirus pandemic should teach us one thing, that universal healthcare is critical. Because at this point, whether you have a medical card that covers you, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Japan, biotechnology, yes! Hey, Samuel, are you into business now? What are you importing from Japan? Knowledge! I'm going to study biotechnology in the best university in Japan. I applied and ta-da! Japan? Yes! You will have to first learn Japanese. No, my friend. They have more than 850 courses that are provided in English and very affordable. Hey, how do I apply? Kuja Osome Japan. Study in Japan Global Network Project brings you an opportunity to study in Japan. Log on to www.studyinjapan-africa.com and apply to study in Japan with over 100 universities providing cutting-edge science and technology courses including the field of robotics, artificial intelligence, AI, environmental studies, information technology, and many more. Not only postgraduate but undergraduate level is also covered. Mention our course, you will not fail to get it. Visit our website today on www.studyinjapan-africa.com.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
12 minutes to 7. Let's look at other headlines in the papers.
Okay, so there's an increased arrival of cargo causing congestion at the port.
Good or bad news? That.
Well, let's see. The Kenya Port Authority is addressing challenges brought about by increased containers arriving at the harbour. Acting Managing Director Rashid Salim says they are handling huge volumes of cargo as traders double imports following the easing of some COVID-19 restrictions and increased demand for goods. So we saw a time where there was nothing coming in because of COVID-19. Now, because those measures have been released a little bit, we see now a lot more in terms of cargo traffic coming into the country. According to KPA, it's a peak season, especially because most ports across the world are active at the moment when they were previously not. We are recording full container berth occupancy with minimum vessel delays. The port, he says, currently has a huge volume of containers, which should not just be looked at as congestion, but as a sign of improved business locally and internationally. Salim told reporters yesterday that there was adequate space to accommodate additional containers. He said the port has more berths and that most ships leave within 3 days of arrival. So this is a good thing because there's a lot of business at the port. Internationally, the doors have opened. People who are waiting for their cargo now can get it and it's coming. Ship comes in, berths, docks, releases its cargo, gone in 3 days, and another one is able to come in, so it's good. He says, let us appreciate that waiting time for containers has reduced between December last year and this week. Containers waiting railage over the last 3 days has averaged about 50, which is a good sign of recovering productivity, thus also recovering economies. So this is a good thing. All right. So the challenge is a good problem.
Yes. It's a good problem to have.
Yeah.
So you have economic activity resuming. You have the port making money. You have that means that as goods are arriving, that means that there's trade happening.
Absolutely.
In the country and in the region.
There's demand.
Good. All the best to them. Let's talk about the Constitution. This Constitution, the one that we are about to amend, 2010 Constitution. Among the big things that it sought to sort out was the issue of land. Okay. And that's why there was a constitutional commission that was established called the National Land Commission to look at various things and to see it's the one that mediates in the matters of land. So now the National Land Commission, that one that we established with the constitution, there's a report, and these are just various reports from the Auditor General, and it's basically showing that taxpayers could have lost 14 billion shillings in irregular land agency payouts. This is not conman between and conman doing something. This is the National Land Commission actually paying out money. And this report says it could have been more because the special audit by the Office of the Auditor General did not review the entire 22 billion shillings that 7 agencies spent over 3 years to compensate landowners. Cases of inflated as well as double compensation, in some cases false claims, were exposed during the audit of the expenditure for compulsory acquisition of land for public use between 2014 and 2017 financial years. Among the allegedly fraudulent cases is a 221 million shillings paid to four properties along the Embakasi Station Railway Reserve, yet the National Land Commission had already revoked the titles, suggesting it was public land. Okay?
You're paying for land which already belongs to you.
Yeah.
You have already revoked the title. You've said this is public land, and then now you come and pay someone 221 million shillings. NLC sanctioned acquisition of parcels worth 9.5 billion shillings without conducting searches at the registry to confirm taxpayers were not paying private individuals for public land or ensure the owners had acquired the property lawfully. This is what the Auditor General is saying. They did not conduct official search prior to compensation, which exposed the public to potential risk of irregular acquisition of public land. The Commission also paid out 7 billion shillings based on valuation compensation schedules that were either not dated or signed. In some cases, payments were made without evidence of valuation reports, which raised questions how the compensation amount was arrived at, or land bosses merely approved figures quoted by landowners. Everybody knows that this was the biggest cash cow in the country between 2013 and 2019. National Land Commission. SGR compensation. Expansion of the roads compensation. There's building of various bypasses compensation. And all that comes in with compulsory acquisition. And then it comes in payments.
Let me add a little icing to it. The team that wrote it, well, the crafters of this particular article also state that according to the Auditor General, 7 billion of this 14 billion was land that was paid on, one, evaluation compensation schedules that were either not dated or signed.
Yes.
So you want to ask, so I thought a simple thing about payment, a date has to exist.
And a signature.
Yes. None of these were present.
Whose evaluation is this?
Yes. You see, who does the evaluation?
Yes.
If it's government to government, the government has a ministry that can do these things. Yes. And they do it all the time.
Maybe sometimes these guys will argue, we're not just talking about, the urban areas. We're talking about even in the rural areas, where we go and say, so this is where this road...
It's agricultural land.
It's earmarked. Now, you own a piece of land that touches tarmac. Okay? Now, your piece of land needs to move so that tarmac expands. How much is land going for here? Okay. So, I'm going to give you 200,000 shillings. Sawa. Move.
You see,
cumulatively.
Why this one becomes an issue is that it's like they were merely paying out monies as per whatever the landowners told them.
Yes. At that point.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Now, they are also being accused of not even conducting any valuation process.
Yes.
Not doing any search. Meaning, what you call due diligence was not followed at all. Monies were simply just paid out. Okay?
And this country is rich.
There was no valuation report. Okay? There was no indication whatsoever how the amount being paid at that particular cost was arrived at. Okay? So essentially, these land bosses just approved whatever the owners had said was
we need to move. It's just how much are they asking for? Okay, that sounds reasonable. Sawa, you pay.
Give them.
let me tell you something else. If you read this whole story, almost every paragraph comes to you as a shocker. There's even one case where they paid out money to an entity that was not the same as the registered entity or the individual who owned the land. It's like, I, C.T. Muga, am paid, but the registered owner of the land is Eric Latif. How do you do that exactly?
Which mathematics is this that you're using to apply all of this? It's not working.
What
coming together?
What this, in summary, it's like every careless way of simply paying out money because you knew you could do it was done.
Yep.
They didn't care. They didn't. Do you see an effort to even cover their tracks? Not really.
No.
So because it's clear that there was never any thought that this was anything that would get them caught. No consequences for this behavior.
Exposes a very big thing also, that although the National Land Commission was established so that we can also start streamlining land tenure and ownership issues, those things hadn't happened. So you are coming into sort of a system, and then you also at the same time being told, now we need to acquire land for infrastructure development. Now, I'm sure in some of those cases where you hear land, CT is the one who's been paid, but the title it belongs to Eric, you will find there's a story about CT also having presented some paper.
You know what I find interesting, Eric, is this whole rationalization process that was supposed to represent the National Land Commission and the functions.
Yes.
It brings that entire exercise into question. So I have to question and ask, what prevents there from being double allocation of titles, double allocation of lands, the very thing they were trying to do away with.
Yep.
These things that have dogged us for the longest time.
Yes.
What prevents there from being a case being made for this thing being exacerbated, being increased, being heightened as opposed to being eliminated?
It's going to take a while. And I think now that the Lands Ministry is actually now digitizing everything, that will start sorting out issues.
I thought they started this thing a long time ago, Eric.
There was the digitization of, first of all, all the records. Now its transfers are now digital. So it moved to the next step. What now the Lands Ministry is doing is transfer. You want to transact any piece of land, do it online. It's all digital. So that it's clear. You're not going there to look for a file. You're not going there to put something in a file that will disappear. It's now in the cloud. This cloud will not rain.
It will not rain.
It's a permanent cloud.
Okay.
Keep it right here. We'll have more conversations coming up in the next hour. So in the next hour, let's talk about education. Education in the country. So we know that KCPE, KCSE are about to begin in how many weeks again, City? 3 weeks. In 3 weeks' time, the exam called KCPE will begin.
And the one we know as KCPE will also begin not too long after. Yes, one of course.
KCSE and KCPE, yes.
They are called KCPE, and then there's KCSE.
Yes.
Yes, of course, one takes a shorter time, the other one takes a longer time.
Yes.
But they're about to begin.
Yes. Are all the students ready? That's the question we'll be asking ourselves. Good morning. It's 7 o'clock. Keep it right here.
SpiceFM, Nakuru. Traffic.
Okay, so a couple of things happening this Monday morning. Recruits are reporting to the AP training and GSU training schools this morning. So expect traffic on the Eastern Bypass. So we know that training center is just around the Utawala turnoff. So expect some traffic around that area today because of these recruits that are reporting this morning. Mombasa Road inbound this morning. Chock-a-block, heavy trucks turning. So plan your journeys well. We're looking at the Weybridge, Mlolongo. Everybody's lining up this morning coming in from the weekend travails, all right? The cause of traffic on Mutindwa Junction this morning was an accident on Altering. And that is causing heavy traffic as you're coming into the city. So we're looking at Mombasa Road. We're looking at the Eastern Bypass. Coming out into the CBD. We're also then looking at some traffic coming off Langata Road. As you get to the roundabout at T-Mall, you can go towards Bagadi Way without too much of an issue. Going towards Nyayo Stadium will get you stuck at Uhuru Highway for some time, getting into the CBD. Coming off of Jogo Road through Landis Road into the CBD as well is slow, but it's moving. Slow coming out of Westlands. You can use the Red Hill bypass without too much of a headache. Let's take a look in about half an hour and see how it looks like. No? Talk to us on SpiceFM KE on Twitter, won't you? Let us see how we can keep things moving this Monday morning.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to
2
start your
minutes
day.
after 7 o'clock. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. It is The Situation Room. We thank you very much for tuning in. This is the second hour of the show. We begin at 6 a.m. and conclude at 10 a.m. We are on SpiceFM. We are online where we stream on SpiceFM KE, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And we are also now on KTN Home for the next 2 hours. A very good morning to you, everybody who's watching us on KTN Home. Let's begin the hour with the day's proverb. City Muga.
When the shepherd comes home in peace, the milk is sweet.
Where is this proverb from?
Ethiopia.
When the shepherd comes home in peace,
In peace.
the milk is sweet.
Yes.
Okay. Shepherd comes home looking all frazzled and everything.
And feeling all frazzled and everything.
Milk may not even exist.
It has cuddled.
Let's put it this way. There will be issues. Cuddled is a good word.
Hey, okay. So let's talk about education. Ndu?
All right, let's do that. So the last 9 months saw quite a lot of upside down business happening with education in the country. There were very many things that were said at that point. All right, look, we should have had an education system that, regardless of whatever interruptions came in the on the landscape, that we should have had children continuing in schools. Should have had mechanisms put in place so that, regardless of what happens, education would not have been interrupted. Well, things happened in the manner in which they did. And now we saw that children were out of school, learners were out of school for a very long period of time, and then coming back into school whereby you have to sit national exams, whether it was at the primary level or at the secondary level. We have that happening now. In about 2.5 weeks, in about 3 weeks, these learners are going to sit for the KCPE. And then following that, for the next month, KCSE students, candidates will sit their exams. The calls have come up, and there are very many parents who are worried that their children are just not ready. Now, in as much as everybody says this is expected, learners have been out of school for a very long time, we cannot take away from the fact that parents will be worried about this exam that their children will sit. We can all say that, it's all right. They've been out of school for some time. Even if they do poorly, it can be understood that, they were not up to scratch in terms of their learning and everybody would have just accepted. But this is something that's going to be on your record for the rest of your life. It's not something that we know because there is transition that you will go on to the next level. You will be picked into a university if you're coming out of KCSE, or you will go to a secondary school if you're coming out of KCPE. We know that the transition exists. But if you do get a poor score, the explanation on your record will not be that there was COVID-19, right? The only explanation that you will get on your record will be the grades that you were accorded because of the exams that you took. So there's a lot of worry from parents that because of the fact that the children were out of school, they did not have adequate time or ample time to prepare, and they were not learning anyway. So in terms of the subject matter that will come their way for the exams, there's some concern there. So we have a barrage of concerns. Apart from those that the parents have, apart from those that the learners have, the teachers feel that, all right, this is all right. This is what is expected. And we expect that although they will not do very well, we'll be able to cover the syllabus, and we're looking at what they're able to learn as opposed to what they're able to cram when it comes to exams. So there's not an issue there. We have yet another concern coming out of the ministry, that there are many students who just cannot be found. They, for one reason or the other, did not come back to school in October with a partial opening. They did not come back in January when schools opened completely. Whether they went to work, whether they fell into the category of those girls who were pregnant because they were out of school or such, we don't know. In terms of the numbers also, we don't know exactly how many are out. But what we're hearing now is the thousands.
Mm-hmm.
I think right now, this sector is placed at a very unique position to either get it right or get it absolutely wrong. We also, about 3 weeks ago, got, the information that the new system is going to kick in and a new kind of learning will take place. There are very many things up in the air at the moment, which in my opinion are very good avenues to actually start to solve the problems that have dogged this ministry for a very long time. It would be easy to say, it's all right, let them do the exams. Whatever scores they get, we'll deal with them as we go ahead, which is what we've basically been able to hear. But what do you do about a poor score on the record of someone who who will not get another chance to resit this exam? I think that right now we are at a unique point where many, many things in this system can be fixed. And I do think that even though this is a unique year, I think that with the records, or rather with the results that come about from these exams, we should not actually put any kind of blame or any kind of pressure on learners, regardless of what scores they do get, because it is expected. It's a unique year. It's a different one. And I think we need to be accepting of what comes along. However, putting all of this together, I think there are very many things that need to be fixed within the system.
What are those things? Come out straight. Are you saying that we should postpone these exams?
No, I think the exams need to go ahead as they were. But we're also looking at a time where a new system is coming in, and we're not looking at just exam-based learning. We're looking at wholesome learning. We're looking at capabilities of learners finally now. And I think that here there's an opportunity to fix the system. And then we will not have these problems that we see now, where parents and students themselves are worried about the score that you get as opposed to the knowledge that you actually have. And I think that here...
I'm not getting what you are getting. So CBC has started. We have grade 3s who are already into grade 4, and the others who are already continuing with CBC, right? There's standard 8 and there's form 4. Those ones have not gone through CBC. They're still doing the 844, and they're doing an exam, and the exam is coming. And you've raised the issue here and the concern of those students not being adequately prepared because of the long gap that they took at home, and maybe coming in and now going into an exam so soon after reopening, about 6 months or 5 months after reopening. Okay, so what is the concern? What is the big concern with the students now who are sitting exams?
There is a huge concern amongst parents that they will not be, they've not been adequately prepared because they've been out of school for some time. And I am saying that we are at a point whereby it should not matter the score that you get now, taking all these things into consideration. We're going into a period where that will change. And it will not matter the number, but what matters is what you've been actually able to learn. And I'm saying that that pressure needs to be eased right now, and that students will do the best that they can. But that pressure that has constantly been put on what score you're able to get as a result of an exam needs to be removed. It needs to be removed. Because you can imagine now, in the next 3 weeks, everybody's saying, well, okay, we've been out of school. We've just had 6 months to kind of catch up in all kinds of learning. And the pressure is, if you fail, you fail. But I am saying that here is a time where we can actually move beyond this pressure that comes with exams and look at the wholesome learning which an education is actually supposed to be able to provide.
Let me ask this question. I may sound like I'm actually being a wet blanket, but that is not my purpose. Is there any examination system in this world that doesn't have some sort of pressure?
I don't think so.
You see, so long as you are asking students to be tested, to have their knowledge tested in whatever form, it will raise some anxiety. The problem with the system we have, myriad as they are, I would single out one which stands out, and that is the entire future of would-be candidates is more or less determined by this one exam. And the new system that we're introducing
Removes that.
Yes, is supposed to mitigate against it so that if you have an exam at the end of the month or the term or the year, it isn't the only thing that determines the assessment of your abilities. That much I understand. But the truth of the matter is this. If we try to introduce or bring about a thinking or feeling that stress by its very nature will be eliminated from any system, that is not speaking truth to the subject. In this way, stress is not necessarily negative. If you look at how it is people achieve great things, it's because they put themselves under stress, or sometimes stress is applied to them. Any world-class athlete goes through a lot of stressful moments to get to the peak where they can do well. Anyone who studies to increase their knowledge base, either by acquiring a degree or a further and an extra one, always involves themselves in some stress.
Yes.
At the workplace, if you want to excel, it means you're going to be doing things that are over and above what you may necessarily have been required to do. All these are stressful situations.
Yes. However, CT,
Comma.
this education system that we are looking at now, the stress that learners would previously, and even until now, put themselves to, is not a knowledge-seeking method for this information, for this education. It is packing in all this information in order to pass an exam. The examples that you're giving about athletes, conditioning their bodies to be able to win a race, but it's a constant conditioning, taking in constantly to be able to finish this race or to be able to compete. In this case, what have we said? What have we been looked at? You cram, you get this knowledge into your head in order to pass an exam. Ask this student the day after the exam or a month after an exam to apply this thing that they wrote in the exam. And we've seen the reports. We even heard last week when Mudeo Kasanga talked to us last week, and they said, in terms of being able to regurgitate what they wrote in the exam, nothing. So we're trying to go towards knowledge based so that the stress that you're talking about, which is good or bad, whichever way you want to look at it, the stress is then you're saying this which I actually know is what I'm putting in the exam. Not this which I'm trying to cram at the last minute, the notes that I've read, can I actually remember them to be able to pass this exam? And that's what I'm saying, that we have an opportunity right now to say moving towards knowledge so that even when you're doing this exam, whatever assessment that you will do year after year is to test your knowledge and not to test your cramming capacity. So the stress that we're talking about that you have during an exam, absolutely, it will be there. But you see the stress that most students felt, and I know you can attest to this with the system. Yes, you can, Titi, because you've said it before. Can I remember? Can I cram? So I'm cramming the month before, I'm cramming, trying. But imagine if you're learning this information onto knowledge, it's not going to be as stressful as when you're trying to cram.
You know, I'm not disagreeing with you here wholeheartedly.
Just a little bit.
I'm just disagreeing with you on one or 2 points. Let's take the discipline of medicine, for instance. To be able to become a doctor and to know all these things, you cram. You ingest it. Whether it is the human structure, whether it is whatever it is you cram. The fundamental difference is this. You put it into practice as you go along. You may understand biology, but at some point, I think it's in year 2, you'll encounter cadaver. Okay? When you get to year 3 and beyond, you actually start dealing with live human beings, and as you progress. So the knowledge that you've acquired is put into practice. Now, I think the new system is trying to do precisely that. Okay? Essentially, there's a cognitive element that is being thrown in. The reason why I'm saying this is, this idea of rote learning, this idea of simply putting everything to memory is not necessarily as negative as one would assume. Because what it also does, in all honesty, it increases your capacity. You may not think so, but it does. You're able to do a lot more than you could before. One of the complaints that I heard about the 844 system, it doesn't give children time to play. And I was one of the people who agreed, because when I thought back, now this was a horrible example, of course, to the time when I was in primary school. You know why I'm saying it's horrible? It was a really long time ago. Okay? I remember being in class, but I remember playing a lot. And the understanding is that playing is a necessary part of learning. Okay? So, with the 844 system, if we take the view that the implementation of it is what has brought us the realization that perhaps, yes, knowledge-based, we understand it, but tweak it so that the stimulus response element, the one which sort of like ignites the cognitive element within your system, is given priority, is good. So that it's, apart from just having the knowledge, you also know the application of it. Why do I say this? Yes, findings have shown that sometimes people don't remember. But if you look at Kenyan students who have been in the 844 system and have managed to get scholarship of going abroad, they excel. They don't do badly. It is not they arrive there and they're not doing well. They actually do very well indeed.
Very, very well.
With the 844 system.
Yep.
So what I'm saying is, like with all systems, there'll be those who really swim with it and are good with it. But there are others who will be disadvantaged greatly. Now, the new system tries to make it an even playing field where the elements of disadvantage are reduced to a bare minimum.
You know what? I see yes, all those things that we are saying, the CBC system is going to help us look at the various capabilities of a learner. We'll be focusing not just on passing one exam, but, there's continuous assessment, which counts when it comes to the final exam that you sit. All those things are there, but I agree with you, City, that pressure will not reduce. Pressure will not reduce because parents will still be wanting their children to become, the best when it comes to sciences. And then the science courses are the ones that, take you to this kind of schools when you go to the senior high school. These other schools are going to take this other kind of students in senior high school. We are already going to be separating students, eh? When you go into this school, these ones are the science ones. These are the STEM ones. When it comes to math, they are very good. These ones are the ones that go there in art. Are we working on the mindset of our parents to actually start thinking, okay, it doesn't really, if my child excels in art, that is where their life is. If my child excels in sciences, that is where their life is. But also, secondly, what is it that has caused us to have this kind of pressure around exams? And I want to say that from my own thinking, the pressure around exams is because of, number one, when you sit an exam, depending on the kind of marks you get, that guarantees you a place in a secondary school. Not that it guarantees you a place in, first of all, getting a place in secondary school. And then we go into, okay, the kind of marks that you've gotten allows you to go to a certain secondary school. Those secondary schools have not been increasing over the years. Until recently, when now there was recalibration of the number of national secondary schools under Matiang'i. Before that, national schools were a certain number. Provincial schools were a certain number. District schools were a certain number. So you're all competing for these limited slots in the national schools, in the provincial schools. And that's where the issue of you must pass, you must score well so that you go to this school came in. If government was actually expanding the number of institutions in the country, if we had more and more schools being built, so that you find that the number of every district, every county, for example, had a national school from the very beginning, not now, then we would be sitting back and feeling, all right, so you've passed, you've gone well, you've done well, you're going to this school, you've not done so well, you're going to this other school, you have gotten these marks, you're going to this school. There's access into secondary school.
And if I may add to what you're saying, Eric, then there is after school probably at university.
Yes, same thing happens.
Yes, because you do well, it means you can then be accepted for a course that is competitive when it comes to the job market. And parents are keen. They want to ensure that their children can actually have a life after they finish university. Now, where the problem arises is this. The reality is that even with those high grades, there is no guarantee for that so-called employment. That is just the reality. But what there is space for is innovation. especially when you're in the situation such as the one we're in, where it is clear that the government isn't going to be the biggest employer, or the government isn't going to absorb everyone who has finished exams. Why do I say creativity or innovation? It's because it is the one thing that takes into account someone's capacity and ability, and how best that ability can be used to fit into an already existing situation. Remember, the system that we have is you study, then you just plonk yourself into that particular system and you become part of it. But we are saying, think about how you can be part of it in a different setup as opposed to what had been pre-programmed and predetermined. Now, this is something we don't teach.
For us to get there, a lot needs to change.
Yes.
For us to get there. And this thing of the government just assuming that things are going to work out, because sometimes it appears like it's just assuming that things are going to work out, has got to stop.
So
and
are
a
we
lot of
saying,
effort has got to be put in.
So are we saying, even with this new system, or rather with this continuing system, is that we essentially you would bring out a more knowledgeful individual, but you're still putting them into a system that has also not then expanded to accommodate this new knowledgeful student.
That's what I'm saying.
That is not enough to just say, let's change how they learn, but then you're going to have to set up the parameters within which they can exist thereafter. You have a more knowledgeful student now trying to get a position in university, for example, whereby the job market is offering a certain kind of course, but they've not been adequately prepared for that because there's not enough space. They want to go to a certain high school, or they want to go to high schools of certain caliber, but you've not established more high schools.
Yep.
We don't have enough in terms of numbers. So even this more knowledgeful student will not get a place to go to that will then be able to enhance this
things will
knowledge
not
that they've
change.
got.
There are some schools that you'll go to, and just because of the kind of facilities that are in that school, you'll not get the same level and degree of education as somebody else who's gone to another different school.
So what we're
And as long as we're not standardizing this, as long as you're still saying that, Alliance is still going to be the best, and there are not very many other alliances in the country, then what are we saying? That you've gotten these marks, yes, Alliance is going to be the STEM kind of senior secondary school. So you go into Alliance, and somebody else goes into another senior secondary school that is extra county, and it's not the same. And you have those students coming out. There's still going to be competition at that level of entering from junior secondary to senior secondary on what kind of school you want to go to.
So a lot more than
And that exam, throughout those exams will be pressure. What scores are you getting? Are you going to this local school here? My friend, you need to go to Alliance.
So a lot more needs to be done in terms of the uniformity across schools on higher levels, so that if the teacher now is the one who is the responsibility is placed on their shoulders to be able to pick and point from students who then is going in which direction, then where they're going then needs certain things to be in place, and it can't just be 10 or 12 of those schools in the country. Across board, everybody then is going to have the facilities required to continue the journey that this child has found in the CBC. It has to be.
The education system, even as we think of it and as we know it, this uniformity that we speak of really has to be explained in detail and understood in a similar degree of detail. Why do I say this? If you want to take the view that they will be the same, reality, that won't be the case. It won't happen. Even with the best of intentions and with the best of results, it won't happen. And the reason I'm saying it won't happen is this. Even as we talk about this, there are schools that already have that huge advantage.
Yeah.
And the advantage has something to do with the government, yes, but it also has to do with the alumni. There are people who are very committed to their former schools, and because of that commitment, they have ensured that those schools always have the best of everything.
Yeah.
So even when you talk about the new system that we're going to be putting in place, that advantage will still exist. If I hear you correctly, what you're saying is the schools that appear to be disadvantaged are the ones we must think of.
Those are the ones that need to be given the
We need
attention.
to improve them.
Brought up to a level where, okay.
And
It's
actually
always-
increased.
That's it. It's
Yeah.
always going to be a fact, City, that there'll be students who will score high marks and there are those who will not score high marks.
Yes.
Those that score high marks will go to certain schools. That's clear. That's okay. We can say, yes, Bangus and Alliances will take this kind of students who score this kind of marks. But then the second tier how well equipped are those second-tier schools? We are calling them now what? Extra county schools. How well equipped are these extra county schools? How many are there? If you only have 2 extra county schools in a big county such as Kiambu, which has how many students, what are you doing?
And look at the rules now as they've been demarcated, right? We are saying essentially that going to high school, lower high school, junior high school, junior secondary rather, you will not be able to go to boarding. The reasons why most parents send their children to boarding is because you're looking for that school. And so you send your child across country, right? You must then go to a school which is in your locality because you will not be able to board. Now, what have been the worries before? That these schools in your area may not have the facilities that you need. So you have a child, for example, who excelled in STEM. So they are leaving that and going into high school whereby there are certain things that they need. School in your locality, could it be a public school? Yes. They don't have the facilities that you need. So even as we are working on this system, I don't think it's this new system that has an issue. It is the existing and non-existent facilities coming into the future that really need to be paid attention to.
Indeed.
Because they need help.
That's it. 27 minutes after 7. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room. Thank you very much for tuning in this lovely first day of March 2021. Let's take a break on KTN Home, on SpiceFM, and online. We want to take a look at what's happening on the roads and also look at the weather forecast for the day in various cities and towns around the country and in the world. We'll be back shortly.
This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. Spice FM.
It's getting hot in here.
Oh, everybody steals. It's better a thief who brings something small back. And I say to myself, there's no better thief. A thief is a thief, period.
All those bribes, how much they're getting per year, how much inconvenience they're causing, as much as you call it a small case, it's worth it to be convicted.
The truth is, we are a tribal nation. Because if we were not tribal, and I want to go back to this, you cannot continue walking around with a mug which is clean outside and it's rotten inside.
We have become a Fuliza country. We have mortgaged our country because of debt.
You've got one chef working and the assistant chef wakati anatakana koroge unga nini hayuko.
This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Japan, biotechnology, yes! Hey, Samuel, are you into business now? What are you importing from Japan? Knowledge! I'm going to study biotechnology in the best university in Japan. I applied and ta-da! Japan? Yes! You will have to first learn Japanese. No, my friend. They have more than 850 courses that are provided in English and very affordable. Hey, how do I apply? Kuja Osome Japan. Study in Japan Global Network Project brings you an opportunity to study in Japan. Log on to www.studyinjapan-africa.com and apply to study in Japan with over 100 universities providing cutting-edge science and technology courses including the field of robotics, artificial intelligence, AI, environmental studies, information technology, and many more. Not only postgraduate but undergraduate level is also covered. Mention our course, you will not fail to get it. Visit our website today on www.studyinjapan-africa.com.
The weather with Spice
All right,
FM.
Monday morning, we're looking at partly sunny conditions in Nairobi. Highs of 25 today, lows of 15. Sunny in Nyeri at 12, highs of 26 and lows of 13. It's mostly cloudy in Nakuru at 14, highs of 29 and lows of 15. We're looking at sunny conditions in Eldoret at 14 degrees, going to highs of 26. It's mostly sunny in Kisumu at 20, highs of 31. Kakamega is sunny at 18, highs of 32. 32 the high in Mombasa today, partly sunny conditions at the moment. And it's sunny in Malindi at 26, highs of 31. And mostly sunny conditions in Kampala at 21 degrees, highs of 28 and lows of 20. It's mostly cloudy in Dar es Salaam, a chance of rain later, highs of 32. And sunny conditions in Joburg. It's dipping, however, 9 degrees now. We're looking at highs of 22. And in Lagos, cloudy conditions now, beckoning rain, 33 the high and lows of 27. And in Kinshasa this morning, it's clear at 25, highs of 34 and lows of 24.
Spice and everything nice. All right.
Spice up your life.
Sheesh, Kiambu Road, my goodness. Sorry, guys, but today looks like that day where I think we're probably going to break the record and go on to 8 lanes today. It's quite crazy trying to join the Muthaiga Square, where, by the way, things are bumper to bumper, very tight and moving very slowly as well. The service lanes, however, are giving up some good vibes today. You can use those on Thika Road at least. Mombasa Road, there's traffic all the way from Syokimau this morning and it's going through to General Motors. Very, very slow. At Cabanas, there is a headache. You need some Panadol for that one. All right, let's look coming out of Westlands. It's slow, moving through all that construction. The Red Hill bypass will give you some good reprieve this morning. Please use it. Also, as Wangari Maathai will help you coming out of Thika Road today. Use that as well. Getting into the CBD, longer route, but you won't be stuck in traffic. Is there a problem on Outer Ring? Yes, there is. There was an accident there this morning, and so it slows things down considerably. If you're heading in that direction, just know what lies ahead. So they're going to fix all the roads in industrial area, we're told. And it's going to cause some traffic. We'll give you the details about that in a bit. SpiceFM KE talked to us through this morning on Twitter.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
8 o'clock. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room, broadcasting in Nairobi on 94.4, 87.9 in Mombasa. Kisumu is 102.5, 96.0 in Nakuru, 96.7 in Eldoret, 90.9 Nyeri, and Malindi is 97.7. That's on Spice FM. Online, we are live streaming on Facebook, Spice FM KE. YouTube, SpiceFM KE, and Twitter, our handle is SpiceFM KE. We are also live on KTN Home until 9 o'clock. This hour, we are discussing the education system, the challenges in the education sector. We had a conversation last week with Mudeo Kasanga, the chairperson of the Kenya Private Schools Association, where we looked at this. Today, we are seeing headlines talking about the preparation for the upcoming exams, KCPE, KCSE, that are taking place this month. Nduoko is saying, okay, there are challenges that clearly are here, but let's look into the future. There is hope. There is light at the end of the tunnel.
There is, for sure. I mean, when you look at a new system and what you're saying, essentially, because what is education? It's to help have a broader view, critical thinking, impartation of knowledge and such. But then if you're putting these individuals essentially back into a system that you've also then not enlarged, that you've not expanded, that you've not improved as well, and then you're making rules as you go along, but then you're not also expanding the capacity and the facilities that exist in the country, then we have a problem. So we're almost going round and round in circles with more qualified individuals, but then the system is not buffering them up. So there's several things that we've said that comes along with this new system when the president talked about it about a month ago, is that we are saying, okay, certain things need to happen. We saw that, there was misbehavior on the part of students. We saw that there was burning of schools. We saw that there's, teacher apathy and all sorts of things happening. Are we dealing with those problems at the same time? So in as much as CBC, for which I am a huge proponent of, by the way, in terms of knowledge and understanding and things like that, into what system are we putting that? Are we putting these finished product into? How are we making sure that even as you finish with more knowledge, that you are now making sure that all of those lines are drawn properly then for them to operate within? So we're saying that, all right, I have a student, you've come out with a child who's brilliant and has done well in school. And then you're saying in order for them to propel or move forward with this knowledge and information, they then must go to an institution that is going to give them the requisite facilities to do so, right?
Yeah.
But then at the same time, you're also saying, well, in junior secondary school, I don't want these children to board. The options for which this child can continue with this knowledge and education is at a school that is outside of our locality. At the same time, you're making rules and saying, well, we don't want you to be away from your parents or away from home until a certain time in your secondary school education. Now, is the system making adequate preparation to make sure that there are schools with the right environment and the facilities within the locality to foster these children who are coming out of this system whereby they've had enhanced knowledge and understanding? And it is absolutely necessary that those things are looked at. We have a unique opportunity to make those changes today, now,
to
start to invite at least some of these conversations and to say that some of these things need to be done.
Students don't have a problem with taking in knowledge. No. Once they get to be of school-going age, by and large, children actually even enjoy going to school unless there's something absolutely wrong.
Yeah.
This preparation of the teachers, let me just explain. You see, when you now want to ignite the cognitive aspect of a child's mind, you know what you're doing, in essence? You are encouraging this child to ask questions that ordinarily they do not ask. Not just within the school setting, but they will have a mindset that does that. You are encouraging them to reason. You are encouraging them to have alternate perspectives. Now, this is a drastic shift from the learning that our education system has had for the longest time, right up to university, where those who have the task of imparting knowledge believe that when they tell you, you listen and you obey.
And you don't ask questions.
Yes. You are going to have students going home and asking questions that parents are not even prepared to probably even respond to. They'll be questioning things. Now, in that, I'm in full agreement with you. It is good to have a population of people who question things, who ask, explain it to me. I don't understand this. Is this the limit of my thing? Is this the limit of how we can do this? Is this the end of what? It's important. But if you actually have it working as it should, you know what you have? You have a situation where these children, forget growing up. The moment they get to an age where they can actually talk and begin to assume roles that adults assume, they will question police action. They'll question you, the parent at home, and the decisions that you have made. They'll expect you, the parent, to consult them when you're making decisions about their lives. They will give you a very clear idea of why they think it is a school or a course they should be taking. In short, I'm saying that you are preparing the student. To some level, you're preparing the teacher. But are we preparing the parents? Because in all honesty, you are going to have almost a new person in your home, not the person you've had before.
For sure. I think the responsibility then is increased then when parents need to draw the lines around things like respect and authority and discipline. And I think those, I want to say it goes without saying, but then I realize that no, it actually doesn't. That parents then also need to realize you have a more inquisitive child coming home. You still need to make sure that the lines that you've drawn around these three things of authority, discipline, and respect are drawn a little harder and are drawn maybe a little darker so that they understand that, yes, in as much as you're inquisitive and all of this and you're learning, that you still realize that you must, give respect to authority and things like that. And I think those are things then you now sort out on the home front. But I also have seen adults. We have seen adults, for example, who may have a worldwide breadth of information and knowledge, but don't ask a question and end up messing up. Will not ask because it is the way in which it was given to them. The instruction was given to them, and you don't ask. There was a story that my father told me once. A woman was leaving her home, and she gave instructions to her home manager. And she said, "Here is the baby's food. When you finish feeding, put it in the freezer." Do you know what this woman did?
I can see the baby going to the freezer.
She put the baby... This is the true story. She put the baby in the freezer, came home, the woman found her baby blue. Didn't ask, because it's the way she phrased the question, the way she phrased the information, the assumption was, okay, I finished, I put everything into the freezer. It might seem dumb, but she did exactly what she heard and what she didn't ask questions, didn't do anything. So those are the kind of things that you get. So I think that it's a great thing. I am saying that thereafter, are you providing an environment within which all this information and knowledge and this new inquisitiveness is then put to good use? And I think that it is absolutely necessary to look at those areas.
It is very important. You see, and let's look at the rollout of 844. It had all these things that required a lot of hands-on learning. There was art and craft. There was agriculture. There was music. Those required schools then to start putting up workshops.
Absolutely.
So schools had to come up with workshops. So there's workshop for woodwork and how to do metalwork. There's home science. So where are these kids going to learn how to knit? Do you have the proper facilities for that? It requires that investment. For agriculture, do you have the facilities to be able to teach agriculture?
Do you even have land?
Do you have land? fortunately, many public schools had learned. So it was possible for you to put up with that. And then come up with a 4K club. Remember that last time when we had the conversation here with the CAS for agriculture, and she was telling us she's a big champion of the 4K club. Looking at the meeting that was held in the cabinet last week, and they actually approved a 4K club policy to be revived. Good thing. So when you have rollout 844, but then you see this is what is required. Now we are rolling out CBC. What extra is required? Talk to parents who are telling you with CBC now, you come home and you're told, come tomorrow, come with a clear bucket.
Right.
And you're like, okay, we don't have a clear bucket here, but you can go with this. No. Teacher said clear bucket. What do? You can go and buy. So do we have facilities that are actually sorting out for this kind of new learning across the country? How do you support this? Print, cut out from cuttings, put together. These are animals. Go and look for pictures of animals and then cut them out and put them together and paste them together and bring to school. Are we supporting learners across the country with this? Or is it only favoring some?
Who are able to afford it? Because look, in a lot of this, it comes down to affordability, right? Can you do that? So the student comes home. I mean, I give an example. Last week, make a trumpet. Okay.
Make a trumpet.
Yeah, make a musical instrument out of materials that you have in your home.
Oh,
think about it. Think about it. There are some who are at home and the materials that they have in their home are those that they're going to use to eat that day. Is that not what we're looking at?
Yep.
People then who have a certain amount to operate on. So when we are making... even as we're looking at it, are we taking into consideration everybody? Even when we looked at when COVID-19 made its entrance into this country, and then there was students can learn from home. Very nice. It's great. We have the curriculum development, having the radio programs and TV programs where they were teaching subject per day. Do we know that there are enough households in the country that own a TV? Do we know that there are enough households in the country that have a radio, for example? Do we know that there are enough Now look at the CBC we're talking about. Now it's hands-on learning, using your hands, taking a walk, taking pictures, doing things like that. And this CBC, we're not talking about private schools, private upper middle class. Everybody, public across the country. It's uniform across the country. Are these materials, are these provisions accessible to everybody? And the truth of the matter is that they are not. Are there families who can afford manila paper? It's 20 shillings a sheet.
Yep.
People are thinking about, do I buy 20 shillings vegetables for that day? Or do I buy 20 shillings manila paper? Do I go and buy a glue stick? Do I go and look for? And they say, don't buy materials, use what is locally available so that you don't have to spend. Is it?
What happens if a child comes to your class, doesn't have any manila paper, has nothing?
That hasn't done the assignment.
No, they have done the assignment. You said make with the resources you have.
Yes.
And they decide that their lips are the musical instrument that they have and they're going to whistle. What are you going to do?
Fantastic. That's
creativity.
innovation. Because we are actually even taught this is a musical instrument.
Yeah.
You can blow into it. So if a child actually makes musical instrument using their own limbs, great.
You see, the question that I'm actually asking is a little beyond that. Will the teachers understand it?
And will they accept this?
Yes.
You see? And it would be, I think we'll also be deceptive if we say that the kind of material that we're talking about is just physical materials, paper, scissors. But no, it's not.
The mouth is
it's
physical.
The resource beyond. The resource is beyond that. Will there be an understanding from the side of the teachers that, all right, this is another student who is in a different situation. This is one who is in a different situation. Will they be accepting of all having had that mindset? Taken into consideration.
Let's go to the phone lines. We have Esther Amani on the line. She's in Mombasa. Good morning, Esther.
Good morning. Hi, Siti Mugai Doko. Hi, everyone.
Hi, Esther Amani, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Habari ya Nairobi.
Baridi mingi.
Okay, pwani kuko salama, kuna joto sana. Okay, I want to make a contribution about that. I have two of my lovely boys who I like talking about all the time. One
Please
is
continue.
Yes, the other one is in another curriculum called the IB curriculum, which is more or less like what we want to introduce maybe. So, what Ndoko is saying is very true, and also what Steve is saying is very true. There are two things here. When that my small boy we wanted to switch schools to the new curriculum, right now where I sit as a parent, I have to be up to date with, lazima nisome. It's like I've gone back to school to understand this curriculum that he's in, first of all, because I want to transfer him. Yes, I think if we believe that maybe it's something, he actually requested, why don't you do this? Then I wondered, why did this boy request? And yet we know you are going with 844. So his brother is doing 844, he's finishing his 844. When the two are seated at home, I cannot say this one is advantaged or disadvantaged, but I want to say that 844 system was maybe very good, because I remember I did 844, the father, everybody else did 844. And the product of 844, input, had a very high caliber of everything. At that particular time, before there were all these other interests which came up with the education system and blah, blah, blah. 844 was just perfect. 4K club, home science, all those things, I use them to date. When my kid comes, the other one says now, I want to do, we've been sent with, assignment. I need to do an essay. I'm like, only that. But he has to think. There are 4 portions of that system. And if you, as the parent, you are taking your child, maybe this was something that I should have done before we took him there. You have to understand the system. There has to be somebody coming to tell the parents what to expect, not to read in a journal, this is how they'll be doing it, blah, blah, blah. Because I reached a point we could not. And those people who sit with you in the evening, I could not help this boy do assignments. Then I'm like, why does teacher write a note? You don't write a note. You call me. We discuss what is wrong with my child. And then I'm used to this other mindset all through my life. How many years in high school up to university? Then here is somebody who tells me now, Mom, we have to think. We think every day. We think that questions everybody, the house girl, everything is questionable. So if we want to introduce this new system, even the people introducing have their kids in those private schools. How did they cope with it when bringing it to a parent who is here in Mombasa, hapa Kisauni ama wapi? Anafaa kutoka Likoni asubuhi ashughulike na apeleke mtoto kwa hiyo curriculum mpya. Let me tell you, there'll be disaster because there was no proper change management. So that's my contribution. But my kids are well.
Thank you,
Esther. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Esther. Some comments also coming in on social media.
Yeah, quite some. Mudeo Kasanga says, well, yeah, like I said last week, it does. In answer to that question, the use of local materials is not new. So CBC is the solution that has plagued the education system previously. We used to make musical instruments in 844 pre-2005. So this needs to come back. According to Mandela, CBC is a structural adjustment program for a broke government where most of the costs of education are passed down to the parents. A forward-looking government should have just made improvements on 844. But new is exciting until it fails. Then we have to start all over again. Peter Asuma says, good morning, guys. This thing is very expensive. There's a list of items to be bought weekly. As a parent, I feel it. Shuragi Mwai says, the education system is a problem accompanied with lack of dignity in our institutions. We need to move from teaching to learning. So, okay, quite some that we see there.
Right from the very onset of trainings, there are 2 concepts here. When people are trained as teachers, they introduce to a teacher-centered approach and a student-centered approach. That is, talk about it basically. Now, CBC is student-centered, but those who propagated the 844 system will also tell you it was student-centered. The truth of the matter is that there is no learning that will be entirely student-centered. No. The balance. Now, it's a question of where the balance leans towards. Yes. Because even as you talk about allowing the children to open their minds to understanding things that ordinarily they wouldn't by learning to question, you must also tell them how it is that they need to be rational. Because you can question, but are you going to just be questioning everything? Everything. You are given a response. Why? Why? Surely.
Like a 2-year-old.
Yes. There must be an end to the why. So, anyone who thinks that this is a permanent solution perhaps believes or would like to believe so, but the education system cannot be static. Even as you introduce a new one, there's always the understanding that you're going to need to tweak it at some point or the other.
Yeah.
Just like if you look at our universities, the challenge that universities are facing right now is how do you ensure that you introduce new courses that are relevant to the situation that we now find ourselves in.
Well, and we hear from the universities now that is going to happen, that vice chancellors now will be able to make the rules in terms of the introduction of new courses when it comes to this, because they see the need that comes about from,
and the courses will be what is needed in the market.
Yes.
The point is, it's not that CBC, is starting off on the wrong footing or anything. It's a fact that we have got to be cognizant of where our education system is. And just like Esther has said from Mombasa, look, a number of years back, we had an education system. And then by and by, we got the government sort of halting to develop the education sector, private sector coming in, and private sector is the one that has been running with the education sector. What has happened? Public schools and public facilities have been left behind in terms of what they can offer. So when it was possible for any learner across the country to basically, just like Mudeo Kasanga is saying, we used to make musical instruments in 844. Yes. And 844 was actually even geared to look at where you are, your environment, you're learning using your environment. There are pupils who are learning making desks, making drums, because you can actually get skin and you can make, if it's a musical instrument, make the wandende. You are doing those things because it's possible. You're just taught this is how to make a wandende. Get a tin, all right? Get a kimbo tin, get a string, and you make
piece of wood.
Yes, you make a musical instrument.
And even building a hut.
Even building huts, people are doing that. And it was possible. Now, is the CBC actually encouraging schools or working with putting up those facilities in schools? So that we're not just telling people, go and print, cut, and what else, what is being used in the local, in your locality, what works with you. So that we are able to provide this uniform education. When you talk about, understanding what animals are, there are those that go to school, they walk to school and they're walking by giraffes are here, zebras are crossing the road. So you don't need to tell this kid, go and cut a photo of a giraffe.
Because you've seen one.
They already know
what it looks like.
They already know exactly what it looks like.
The question that comes to my mind even as we're discussing this is, are we limiting the options that students could actually have? And this perspective I have is actually influenced by an education system that I went through when I was in primary school and then secondary. Because then you had what we called technical schools. All right? And then you had national schools that had a technical department. But they had everything. The thing about national schools, there was a technical department, with woodwork, metalwork, even automotive. Some who had even more money, even had aviation, correct? And the art subjects, including fine art, agriculture, it was available. So a student had an opportunity to venture into the areas that they thought they were best suited for. It wasn't just purely academic. But the truth is, changes came about when you were in Form 2 if you're in secondary school. But what that meant was, by the time you were in Form 2, everybody learned how to use a chisel, a hammer. You knew what these things were. Okay?
And if I can just stop you there,
Please,
CT,
yes.
because it was with the aim that, sure, you come into contact with these materials, you know what they're all about, but then the aim that sometime in your future, should you have needed to work with them, you would already have the basic knowledge and understanding of moving forward.
You would.
Right?
And if you had a further interest, there were schools that actually favored the technical subjects more than the academic. They were there. So from there, you then went to the polytechnic, meaning a path that you're going to follow was already channeled out for you. And if, for instance, you're interested in things like, say, home science, right, as they called it then, again, you are given the opportunity to tend in that direction. So the opportunities that we speak of, we may call them something new, but they're not really new. They were there. And we did have colleges, institutions of learning. By the way, the concept of even a village polytechnic, the idea was to absorb students right after standard 7 or even 8 or even from 2 or 3 or 4 so that they could get a skill. That was the understanding. So you didn't lack for a place somewhere to place yourself if you're in the education system.
And now we do.
The 844 system more or less did away with all that.
Now we lack a place to put
844 system still had it until we got to a point where the government no longer focused on developing the infrastructure. And that was it.
You know what
so
I'm
you
saying?
find now there's a local school that does not have all those departments that you're saying, but if you ask them, you'll find that in the 80s they used to have them.
Or the
This
teachers
same school,
themselves
the
in that
teachers
current school had that experience up their sleeve.
Yep.
They did.
Not only had the experience, we had colleges that trained teachers in those very same disciplines.
Yes.
Specifically. So you didn't lack for people who had the skills and the know-how. When I talk about home science, let me talk about something that was called an animal husbandry.
Yes.
Veterinary science, as we now call it. All right? There were colleges that trained you in just that very specific discipline.
And
Now,
you'd know them.
Yes, I
Let's
know
take a
it.
break
Yes.
now on KTN Homes. 4 minutes to 8 o'clock. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. It is the situation. We'd like to hear from you. SpiceFM KE, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Good morning.
Japan, biotechnology, yes! Hey, Samuel, are you into business now? What are you importing from Japan? Knowledge! I'm going to study biotechnology in the best university in Japan. I applied and ta-da! Japan? Yes! You will have to first learn Japanese. No, my friend. They have more than 850 courses that are provided in English and very affordable. Hey, how do I apply? Kuja Osome Japan. Study in Japan Global Network Project brings you an opportunity to study in Japan. Log on to www.studyinjapan-africa.com and apply to study in Japan with over 100 universities providing cutting-edge science and technology courses including the field of robotics, artificial intelligence, AI, environmental studies, information technology, and many more. Not only postgraduate but undergraduate level is also covered. Mention our course, you will not fail to get it. Visit our website today on www.studyinjapan-africa.com.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice
Okay,
FM,
so will
Nairobi.
CBC be the solution to the previous problems in the education system?
Well, okay. Mercy Percy has a lot to say this morning and says there's a lot that needs to be upgraded for this new system to work. Schools need to be upgraded to level the playing field in terms of accessibility to facilities that support a holistic education. But bigger than that, there has to be a mindset shift, starting with us parents. We need to be able to teach our children that critical thinking is the ultimate goal and not just rote learning. If you speak of innovation, one has to be able to think outside the box. This is not possible with our cram culture. One needs to internalize that success is not defined by national schools only. You can succeed anywhere if you're equipped with the right mindset. If we only upgrade schools but do not have a shift towards growth mindset, then it's all for naught. CBC as it is implemented is unrealistic, to be honest. The kind of materials required to execute on basic assignments, for example, are expensive. How are the BOP in our community even able to afford this? My daughter was once asked to make a montage using household material, flour, eggs, shells. Flour, eggshells, etc. Will the poor amongst us eat or make a montage? Will the poor amongst us make a montage or eat? C'est la question. I think it's it's a valid question.
Well, yeah. And you see, this is the thing. So there are those that will be told, go and make a montage using flour, egg, and eggshells and all. Then I'm sure the teacher coming from a certain community knows telling children here to do flour, eggshells is not going to work. So they'll tell them to do using something different. But the thing is, what are they being told to do? If you're being taught to make a montage, if you're being told to make paper mache, for example, like we're told to make paper mache or such kind of things, what were we using across the country? Yeah. So it's all about ensuring that the schools have the requisite facilities to be able to roll out this proper, very good, noble education system, but make sure that it can work. Make sure that there is equality and equity across the country. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. Keep it right here for more conversations in the next hour. It's now 8 o'clock.
Spice up your life. 102.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
All right, still very slow from Garden City
Traffic.
to the NYS this morning on Thika Road. Not moving, guys. Okay, so where Wangari Maathai Road was providing everybody with great options getting into the city, it's not happening anymore. There was an accident there that happened at the underpass towards Ojiji Road, causing some serious traffic there. Please be careful, guys, as we're going through all of this. It's a new month. It's a Monday. Things are already looking crazy. Mombasa Road inbound this morning. Heavy traffic still with those trucks that were coming from Lolongo this morning at the Weighbridge. Very slow. Still packed on Mombasa Road today. Outer Ring. We had some issues this morning with the accident that happened there, and it's taking some time to open up. Coming off of Juja Road also looking kind of slow. Right, so we also have slow traffic coming off of Landis Road into the CBD, packing up as you get into town. We'll see how that opens up in a bit. Langata Road looks all right. It's slow on Gong Road, but it's moving. Not too much of an issue. Talk to us should you need to. SpiceFMKE on Twitter. Text us on 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
2.5 minutes after 8 a.m. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room. Thank you very much for joining us. This is the third hour of our show. This and every weekday morning we broadcast from 6 to 10. We are live on Spice FM, we are online, and we are on KTN Home. Let's begin the hour with today's proverb, C.T. Muga.
When the shepherd comes home in peace, the milk is sweet.
When the shepherd comes home in peace, the milk is sweet.
Kabisa. Maximum.
Maximum sweet.
Maximum sweetness.
Kabisa.
Grade A1. Right. And you said this is from Ethiopia. It's an Ethiopian proverb.
Yes.
Right.
Full of vitamin A, B, D up to F. And also
which part of Ethiopia?
And Sachin.
Tigray or in the Boranas, the Oromo?
Let me explain it to you in a way that you cannot possibly misunderstand. Ethiopia.
Okay. I get it. I completely and totally understand.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I get
no
it.
breakaway part of it. No wannabe breakaway part of it. Ethiopia.
Right.
Right.
So over the weekend, guys, I was reflecting on the conversations that we had over the weekend, right? There's a conversation that we asked people and we asked ourselves, are Kenyans overtaxed? And we had a tax expert who was a former commissioner with the KRA who had worked at the KRA for many years, close to 3 decades. And she told us, actually, technically, Kenyans are not overtaxed. If you look at the tax regime in Kenya and look at tax regime in other parts of the world, even across Africa, we are within the same range. And for example, she gave us the example, look at the income tax for corporations. In South Africa, it's about 28%. Kenya, it's at 30%. Norway is at 45%. And we went through, various other things. And she said, look, in terms of being taxed, we're not overtaxed. Now, you could bring in the argument about how the money that is then levied on Kenyans is used by the government to provide services. And that is where the issue comes in. And I was reflecting on that and asking myself, so yes, we are taxed and yes, we pay taxes to the government so that the government is able then to give us some certain services. And these services, some of them are, creating a conducive environment for business to thrive. Others are providing some basic and social amenities. Are those what we are getting in the country? And then I just started thinking, take any regular Kenyan household, okay? What are the needs? There is need for the basics, shelter, food, right, and clothing. Then the other needs that come in with that, there is a need for adequate healthcare. It's even provided for in the Constitution that you shall have adequate healthcare. In the last hour, we've been talking about education. There's a need for the government to provide a conducive environment and also to ensure that all our children have access to basic education. It's in the Constitution. Basic education is up to the age of 18. This is primary and secondary. Is the government providing that? And then you look at the other things that should be public amenities and public services that should be provided. So I reflected again in the conversation that we had. When we spoke with the chairperson of the Kenya Private Schools Association, Mudheo Kasanga, she mentioned, and we asked about the exam that was given to the students, not exam, but really assessment that was given to the students after the year-long break because of COVID, and they came back to school, and the performance. And she said, well, what came out of there was not unexpected in terms of the people in the education sector. But also something that came out of that is those in private schools performed better than those in public schools. And we asked, why is that? And she said a number of things, a number of them including the private schools are running a business, and because of that, they are very, very focused on the kind of output that comes out of it. For the private school to continue surviving, it must produce results. Public schools, on the other hand, it's all about children going in, and then there are public officers who are supposed to ensure that there is level and quality of education is adhered to. And in many cases, we see this not being the case. And that's why pupils in private schools will perform better, even in national exams, than pupils in public schools in most cases. Okay, I asked myself, so what is it that signifies? That signifies that the government, which is providing the public schools and the public school education, is actually not meeting its end of the bargain. And it has happened over very many years, such that you go to any part of this country, you'll find private schools, yes, offering services from kindergarten all the way to secondary, now expanding into university. 62% of early childhood education in this country, and this is according to Mudheo, is provided by the private sector. 62%. That means the government is only catering for 38% of kindergarten children. The situation in this country is such that, according to our census statistics for the last 20 years, we are growing at a population of about 1 million people per year. Every year, there's 1 million people who require to go into a kindergarten. Every year, there's 1 million people who need to go into standard 8 and move into secondary school. Every year. Every year, 62% of these million people but age 5. That's the age that kids start going into kindergarten, right? 5-year-olds are all going to private schools. Ask any person to call in here and tell you how much they are paying for private kindergarten. Many cases, you'll hear people telling you they're paying hundreds of thousands of shillings a year for a 5-year-old child to go to school and be told, this is a giraffe and this is how to hold a pen. And this is mommy and daddy and walk back home. This is a 5-year-old. You're spending 100,000 shillings because of why? Because education is private. Let's look at healthcare. When we spoke with the chairperson of the Kenya Union of Clinical Officers, and CTU challenged him and said, look, the biggest employer in the healthcare sector is public. And he's told you, no. The biggest, most of our doctors and nurses and clinical officers and other cadres of healthcare workers are actually employed in the private sector. Private hospitals, mission hospitals, NGOs. That tells you that our healthcare system is under the hands of the public sector. And the private sector, the public is basically just trying to catch up here and there. And we are talking about provision of basic services. When is the last time you saw a new health facility coming up in your neighborhood? And we are talking from the basic ones. You go to a health center, going into level 3, level 4, level 5, level 6. Level 6 is the national school hospitals. Kenyatta, MTRH, in Kisumu, what's it called?
Which one? GORTH.
Yes.
Jaramogi Oginga Odinga.
Jaramogi Oginga. Teaching and
referral. Is it really level 6? I'm not so sure, but
I've heard some people saying it's
a referral hospital, but whether it's level 6,
I'm not sure.
I'm not very certain.
Then we have Kenyatta University that recently established
that's a level 6.
Level 6, and then we have, of course, the K&H annex in Udhaya. How many other level 6s do we have in the country? How many have been built in the last 30 years that you've been here? How many? How many level 5s do you have in the country? How many level 4 health facilities do you have in the country? It's a big deal when the Nairobi Metropolitan Services actually sets up 17 health facilities in the country. You're like, wow. Why? Because it's sort of like sounding, it's like it's a new thing. We don't get this kind of thing. Education, health, tick. Put them on ice. Let's look at other basic services. And this is water, hygiene, sanitation, and sewerage systems. People in the Nairobi Metropolitan Region, what is now called the larger Nairobi Metropolitan Region, there are very many households that sort out their own sewage. Right?
Yes.
Not connected to a trunk sewer. They are dealing with their own sewage. Where they have to use private companies to come and do the sewer collection, where they are providing their own water using water bowsers, where you're thinking about, the basic hygiene like garbage collection. People are paying for garbage collection. You have to think where the garbage is going to go. All those services are being handled by the private sector. Talk about public transport. We don't have anything like public transport in this country. It's all private. During COVID times, with the need that the government saw for dealing with this, the president ordered the NYS to roll out some buses in the city at subsidized rates so that those can help people move around. Those buses did not receive any other support from the government, so NYS was unable to maintain those, and it was in the news just the other day that NYS has pulled out the buses. We are back in the hands of the private. The best we have seen the government thinking about, offering this public service of transport within the Nairobi Metropolitan was when the CS for transport went to Thika Road and drew a line on the highway. That was the best we have
Red
seen.
line.
Was it red? Was it purple? I don't even know what color that was.
Let's say it is reddish.
Some reddish line.
Yes.
CES for transport goes and draws a reddish line on tarmac, and that is the best attempt at public transport. Thinking about all those things, and yet you're paying tax, I asked myself, why do I need the government? Why? I sort myself out, I sort my security, I sort my garbage, I sort my transport, I sort my health, I sort my education, I sort my... Why do I need the government? Can anyone help me?
Perhaps the best way I would approach it is to ask the question in reverse. Why does the government need me? Because the government certainly needs me.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, without me, and without you, and without you, and without... the government wouldn't have the taxes. So the government definitely needs us.
Yeah, but wouldn't need the taxes to do what with, though? And the thing is that there seems to be there needs to be some kind of reciprocity. And even when we had that tax conversation, what was it that many Kenyans, not complaining that they do pay tax, that's not the complaint, but that you don't see a reciprocal measure for the tax that you pay. And I think that's where the issue was for a lot of people. People don't have an issue paying tax, but then it should be that you shouldn't have to do these many things. I can give you another example of what I found out over the weekend, just by chance. The HPV vaccine, which the government said they were giving free, guess what?
It's not free.
No, it isn't.
Yeah?
Hold on. So you're supposed, these 10-year-old girls are supposed to get this vaccine. You're supposed to get 3 of them, the initial vaccine and then 2 boosters. What is free is the first one, but the vaccine becomes useless if you don't have the boosters. So the second and the third boosters, guess what? Cost 4,800 shillings.
Each?
Yes.
Perhaps you could explain what it's supposed to do.
So this HPV vaccine is supposed to actually, it's a vaccine that would protect girls from getting the virus that would cause cervical cancer, which we know is the most prevalent form of cancer in women in Kenya after breast cancer, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they say if you can catch it early, then you are at, greater rates of protecting yourself. Now, there was this whole campaign and the government said, look, this is something we find important. We are going to actually provide this for you. You would think that was 1 dose and you would be fine. But as with most vaccines, it is not. It turns out that the second and third doses, you will have to pay for yourself. Right now, if you go to any government facility to get this vaccine, you will get it for free. You will get it for free. If you go to a private facility to get the government dose, you will pay 800 shillings. But that's it. The second and third doses, you will pay not less than 4,800 shillings for the second and the third. So I get what you're saying. Even for healthcare, even for those things, look, even for those things that they say they will do for you, it's actually not done for you. So if we are saying that reciprocity does not exist, then I have to also ask the question that I'm at pains to find out really. And if you're able to do everything for yourself, why bother? Why bother?
Because
so are there certain roles that then maybe we need to then lower our expectations and maybe not throw the baby out with the bathwater, Eric. Maybe we should then lower our expectations and not say that we live in a government-assisted or government assisted society. That you don't expect this to happen from the government, that going in, this is what you're supposed to do. That you don't expect a public
So why are you
health
financing
system.
this government?
You don't expect this. So the question comes in, so why am I giving my money towards this?
Because you live in their country.
Their country.
Yes.
In the government's country.
Yes.
Not the land of the people for the people?
That's the government.
Oh.
So long as you live in this country, you will pay tax. It's not complicated.
Okay.
If you don't want to pay tax, don't live here. Go to another country where you can pay tax. But
if you say that out loud, I'm afraid that you're going to get very many people who are actually going to say, hold on a minute, maybe this is an option that we ought to take.
it is an option.
Some months ago, we had this
But
conversation.
it is an option.
Some months ago, did we not have people call in and say, you know what, if given the option,
The option is there.
that people would actually start to leave if things actually got
Look,
to push and
the
shove.
problem isn't the government doing what it does. The problem isn't whether we should pay taxes or not. We will pay taxes. We must pay taxes. As for the government not providing services, maybe we can point at specific services that are not provided to the level we would want to expect, but the government does provide some services. My complaint is that they fall short of what I would consider useful. Okay? Like, for instance, if the government and those within it decide to represent me in the art of stealing money, which I have given for purposes of developing the country, that is a service I don't need. Okay? I don't want it. I don't need it. But is my voice adequate? Am I listened to? The answer, it is no. I am talking to myself. Does the government build roads? They most certainly do.
Yeah.
And some of them even wonder why they exist. We even wonder, okay, did we not move when we had these roads? We did. Are there other ways of ensuring that we don't have these congested roads? There are. And that's where the issue of public transportation comes in. If you look at the cost of bringing in, really, in all honesty, public service, have we exhausted every avenue that you could possibly exhaust? Call it a PPP, private-public partnership. We know we have matatus. Okay? Now, look at the cost of a single matatu. The numbers of, let's, Nairobi, case in point. Look at the number of matatus we have. Are you telling me that given that all these matatus are already in SACCOs, that you, as the government, cannot get these people to form SACCOs that would bring into being the sort of matatus that could carry more people so that we don't have 10,000 of them plying our roads and congesting the road, or ensuring that these same people who keep paying for these things, that money isn't channeled into a rail system or even a tram system? What am I saying? We haven't exhausted all the avenues that we could exhaust with the existing resources, not more.
As government.
As government.
Because
government here is us and the money that we give to these people who are employed to look after this money.
Because the truth is that they are the custodians of, we talk about enabling environment where things can happen. They are the custodian of this environment. We can't run away from that. And we must look that we must accept that we're living in a world whereby the private sector in a lot of these areas is the option, is the alternative. The standard measure is actually government facilities, government schooling. Very few people the minority take their children to private schools in the US and the UK, for example, even in South Africa. The minority go to private hospitals. The majority of people, the NHS, for example, in the UK, is a public system that has been so well done that people, by the time you think of going to a private doctor, maybe you're going to a specialist to do something like a skincare or what do they call this thing?
Which one?
Tummy tucks and those things are called what?
See, tummy tucks.
Those ones.
Yes.
By the time you're going to a private facility,
I mean,
that's
what
what you're
else
going to
would-
look for, right? Education. Very few people are going to private schools. Very few people are going to private hospitals. Very few people are using their vehicles to drive. Many people are in public transport that is funded and managed by the government, which they see is their responsibility to actually handle. So the private is the option. The private is the option. But here it's the reverse. It's the reverse here. It's the reverse in Nigeria. It's the reverse even in this Rwanda that we keep talking about every day. We are looking at the option being the government. The option
you know
being
what
the
we're
public.
discussing here, if I may benefit from a little history again, as I'm wont to do, is this is actually a new occurrence. The thing that you're describing was always the norm.
Yes.
In fact, the biggest employer was always the government.
The government.
The best employer was always the government. There was private sector, but it was a minimum. But this has taken place over time. Now I'm saying the private sector is with us, yes. But leadership is required in ensuring that the private sector plays ball. If you look at the housing situation in this country and the inclusion of the private sector, things that the government has not been able to do is getting done. The private sector has come in. We see the housing sector beginning to mushroom. We're seeing it, more so in the big towns.
Yes.
It means private sector have been involved. Private sector has not been involved in the way that would benefit the Mwananchi, for instance, when it comes to public transport. They could. If it exists as we see it, with leadership, what makes us think that it cannot be channeled so that it actually provides the sort of transportation that is actually necessary?
Can I tell you something funny? Or do you want us to go to a break?
No, you can tell us, then
Okay.
we go to break.
So now in Nigeria, NEPA, the National Electric Power Authority, which doesn't do anything about
Are they the ones
provision
who
of
buy,
power.
generators for people?
The people who work in NEPA are actually the main
Suppliers.
suppliers of generators for the
That's fine.
population.
So at least they're
So
providing power.
They don't provide power as is prescribed by the power authority, right? So then you had private entrance into the system. So you started to have people like Nesco. So people have power all the time because they buy from a private firm. Guess who the majority shareholders in these Nesco are? Because when you're talking about leadership and people who can actually get it done, they're the directors.
The directors of the
and
national,
the
of
managing
the public
directors
one.
of NEPA.
Yes.
Who are now having shares in places like Nesco and are now providing light to people around, power to people around Nigeria. So in terms of leadership, that's it. It can actually happen. So what happens now whereby you ask yourself, so why can't you do that which you are mandated to do by government to actually have it done? It's not a matter of the wherewithal. It's not a matter of the resources being unavailable.
Absolutely
It
not.
is not.
It is
just
over time.
Will. Over time it has
You have seen the government
degraded.
becoming a private entity.
Exactly.
And that's what it is. It is the privatization of government. So all these things, even now when you're talking about PPP, there's a PPP bill that has been approved by cabinet that's going to parliament that we're going to have now a new public-private partnership kind of framework, upgrading the 2013 law. This is privatization of government services, but to what extent? To whose benefit?
Exactly.
If it is to public benefit, fantastic. If it is the benefit of the people who are in government, who want to run business, then we have a problem, because that is what happened in our education system. That is what killed our public education system. You saw the mushrooming and the robust growth of the private sector because of very many, so you can say, structural adjustment programs of the late 90s, but there was connivance by those who are responsible for this in government. And this is why the problem is. Let's take a break at 24 minutes past 8. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. We're asking this morning. So, exactly this thing called government, why do I need it if I'm sorting out everything for myself? There are, of course, very many reasons why you need the government, but is the government doing what it's supposed to be doing to make your life better? Take a break now. We'll be back shortly. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
Have you seen them? Am I lying?
Yes, it's a very nice outfit, I must say. Good
Thank
job.
you. Asante sana.
The compliment is well received.
Good morning and thank you. Everyone in Wasingishu was asking me what channel is Spice FM.
96.7. Tell them that, right?
Yes, now they know.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to have
what
you.
What a beautiful studio, my friend.
I've been to other radio stations, but I've never seen anything like this.
Thank you. And it's very nice to be in a modern studio. Absolutely brilliant.
And I have to say, it's a very cool ambiance here in your radio room. Just for our listeners, I think it is below zero. In this.
Japan, biotechnology, yes! Hey, Samuel, are you into business now? What are you importing from Japan? Knowledge! I'm going to study biotechnology in the best university in Japan. I applied and ta-da! Japan? Yes! You will have to first learn Japanese. No, my friend. They have more than 850 courses that are provided in English and very affordable. Hey, how do I apply? Kuja Osome Japan. Study in Japan Global Network Project brings you an opportunity to study in Japan. Log on to www.studyinjapan-africa.com and apply to study in Japan with over 100 universities providing cutting-edge science and technology courses including the field of robotics, artificial intelligence, AI, environmental studies, information technology, and many more. Not only postgraduate but undergraduate level is also covered. Mention our course, you will not fail to get it. Visit our website today on www.studyinjapan-africa.com.
The weather
All
with
right,
Spice
so we're looking
FM.
at cloudy conditions in some parts of Nairobi. The sun's going to come out through, however, partly sunny. Highs of 28 and lows of 15. Sunny conditions in Nyeri, 12 degrees, highs of 26. We're looking at mostly cloudy conditions in Nakuru, highs of 29 and lows of 15. 26 the high in Eldoret, 14 and sunny right now. We're going to see highs of 31 in Kisumu today, warming up ever so slightly, mostly sunny at 20. It's also mostly sunny in Kakamega at 18, highs of 32 and lows of 17. 32 degrees will be the high in Mombasa. It's partly sunny right now. It's also partly sunny in Malindi at 26, going to highs of 31. Highs of 28 in Kampala, 21 and mostly sunny right now. In Dar es Salaam, it's going to get quite warm. Mostly cloudy right now at 26, going to highs of 32. Highs of 22 in Johannesburg, mostly sunny at 9. It's cloudy in Lagos at 27. Chance of rain later, highs of 33 and lows of 27, where it's clear in Kinshasa this morning at 25. We'll see highs of 34.
Sugar and spice and everything nice, everything nice. SpiceFM.
Okay, guys, there's traffic still back all the way to Westlands, and this is coming onto Hulu Highway. The construction is what is causing this, guys. It's on the expressway, and it's going to take some time. So we have traffic from Uhuru Highway at the roundabout of the GPO all the way backed up to Westlands this morning. So here are the options. You can go round, come out at Museum Hill, and then go out through Wangari Maathai getting into the CBD. It's going to be a long route, but it's better than sitting here for the next 1 hour, don't you think? I think so. Coming off Thika Road also is slow. The service lanes are up and ready to use this morning. It's not too much of an issue there, but you're going to get back on the main highway as you get to the Pangani Tunnel and then out towards Ngara. Okay, so it's that Monday. Things are looking a bit manic already. Coming off of Mombasa Road is also very, very slow. Remember, the recruits at the AP Center this morning are showing up for duty. So the Eastern Bypass, very, very slow. No PSVs, private vehicles. Everybody is up because they're bringing their recruits. So please be careful as you're going in that direction. Let's talk in a bit and see how it has opened up. Tell us if you're stuck anywhere, if you find a good route to use. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text on 40127.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
It's 29 minutes past 8 o'clock. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room on Spice FM, on KTN Home, and online. This and every weekday morning, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. You have C.T. Muga, Ndu Oko, and Eric Latif as your hosts. We're having a conversation this hour on the service delivery by the government. And over the number of years, we've seen a reduction in terms of the vigor with which the government is able to provide some of these, what should be public service. We've given examples of education sector. Many years we've seen not a robust growth in the education sector, not many new schools being built by the government to cater for a growing population. Population is growing with 1 million new people per year. That is 1 million children per year. That means that you need to have a system that is able to intake these children through the education sector. Health sector, same. Biggest provider and employer in the health services is private sector, mission hospitals and NGOs that are coming to supplement and augment our health service provision. Look at other basic services like sanitation, like provision of water. So you wake up in the morning, you take your child to a private school. If the child falls sick, you take them to a private hospital. You have to sort out garbage, paying a private company for garbage collection. Private company for exhauster services for those who live in parts like, for example, Kitengela. You have to think about how you sort out your sewage. You have to think about how you sort out your water, looking for water bowsers going around the county, providing water. Even in the agricultural sector, agricultural extension services are now being offered by the private sector. And this is something that we're seeing. So where exactly is it that the government is dropping the ball, and why is the government dropping the ball? Yes, it's still there in some of all these sectors, but what is it doing? Why has the government not been expanding its education system? Why has the government not been building new health facilities? Now we are seeing Major General Badi putting up these health facilities in Nairobi, and they're still not enough. But can you imagine when you have space for 17 new at a go within a span of 1 year, 17 new health facilities? What does that tell you? Where were we then that we did not have 17 health facilities in Nairobi?
What it tells me is that there's always been money available to put up these resources because they're budgeted for. However, the history that we keep talking about whenever we're discussing impunity is that the normalcy in all these cases is that the things that should be done are never done. That is it. And so we talk around it, we castigate it, we point it out, but it's like the other thing that we do, and we don't particularly want to acknowledge, is we accept that this is what happens, that it won't get done.
It's a life.
Yes. How do you explain the proliferation of the private sector in these fields? It's because people figure, you know something, this thing isn't working, there's an alternative here.
There's a gap that's left.
Yeah, there's an alternative here. So let's go to the alternative. Now, that people can go to the alternative speaks of the resourcefulness, of the people. It also speaks of the resourcefulness of whatever resources people have and how it is they can utilize them. Because in setting up, and then in also having that flexibility of mind to move there. But it also tells us that we need to extend that resourcefulness a step further. And that's where I think you come in. Meaning, why don't we just tell the government, remember the American independence as we know it and the war that preceded it had to do with, among other things, activities that people have started complaining about in the same way. Why are you taxing us and we don't have representation? If you read the history surrounding it, it wasn't just they were being taxed, they were being overly taxed. And the story, if you read again behind it, was that they were corrupt government officials. They were collecting more money than they should collect. The money wasn't going to where it should go. And people said, no, we are not paying you this thing until we are certain that we have adequate representation. And the representation you're talking about here, why don't you just do the things you're going to say you're going to do with our money?
Yeah.
Because our money is supposed to represent us in getting these facilities done. Now, so long as we have this mindset of always looking for opportunities and always being flexible in the way we think, I think we're on the right path. But we should take that flexibility to the point where we flex to the point where the government, you know something, if you insist on not doing what you're supposed to do with our money, we will not pay you this tax.
I look at it and I say that I don't think the resource is the issue. But what could be the problem as to why some of these things are not being done? We look at a time where, other people were growing up. I mean, you talk about times when you were growing up and certain things that actually things worked. That you could stand at a bus stop, for example, and the public...
You knew the time that bus would arrive.
You knew that it was going to come and it was efficient.
You knew.
In the way in which it was handled, in the way in which it was managed, and you could see that this was actually going a certain way. That you knew that certain things were provided in a timely manner, and you knew that this was the responsibility of the government, that you can actually see it being done. Many people would say that, all right, there's been an increase in population, and there has been, so much more in terms of needs, and then the reduction of how much the government purse can spend. Are those actually reasons as to why service delivery by government is actually in a shambles?
With the growth in population, it means there is a growth in government income from their people.
Yes.
This is not complicated. It's not as though the money the government collects is stagnant and this population
And the
just
people
keeps
are
increasing.
growing.
No. The two go hand in hand.
So why?
You see,
it is the filtration of that bad mindset. And that is the one. This government entity shall become a commercial enterprise. Okay?
This government entity is a commercial enterprise.
And slowly, that's what it has become. You will talk about the not so many decades ago where garbage collection in Nairobi was a preserve of the City Council of Nairobi.
Yes, it was.
And it was clear. Even provision of bins. The bins were actually even labeled. This is an NCC bin and it even has a year. So within X number of years we need to change these bins. It was clear. Cutting of grass in estates is clear. It's government job. Right now, you sort yourself out from A to Z. Why? Because people started looking at how then they can withhold some of these services and start providing them from the private angle. It started with education. I believe people who were working in government are the ones who were the initiators of the expansion of this private education system.
Yes, I'm telling you.
It's very, very clear. You don't see an expansion of number of schools. There is no quality assurance because even if the schools are not increasing, quality assurance should still be the same. Quality assurance in the schools is not there, so people start opting to take their children to private schools. When a new school opens up, and this is a kindergarten, and it is charging pupils, 5-year-olds, 50,000 shillings, 60,000 shillings. To take a 5-year-old to a school, 50,000, and it's not boarding. Going in the morning, coming in the evening.
Not even
not
evening.
inclusive of transport.
1 o'clock.
Afternoon.
1 o'clock, 2 o'clock.
Yes. And we're talking about 62% of these being catered for by private sector. What on earth is the government doing? How can we say that we have devolved education or early childhood education has been devolved? So what are the counties doing if they're only providing 38% of the service? Why do we need them? What is it that we can say that, so healthcare and health facilities, we have this number of health facilities, the mushrooming of clinics in all neighborhoods, all villages around the country. Why? Because health facilities are not being developed with the same speed that people need these services.
There's a positive.
What is the government doing?
There's a positive aspect to it. And I see it's twofold. I actually think there's a deliberate effort by the government not to be involved in the creation or the building of these. Deliberate. When I say deliberate is this. They have looked at the people whose lives they manage and they've realized if we don't provide it, these fellows are going to provide it by themselves.
Yeah.
They figured it out. And why do I say they figured it out?
They move on.
Yes. When it came to private schools and even these private clinics, they didn't start with the Uhuru government. Now they start with the Kibaki government or more. They started even in the Kenyatta government.
Yes.
They're called Harambee schools.
Yes.
Communities, why don't I take it further? Started with what you call independent schools. If you really want to take it to the... Now, people realize they need the education and this government isn't going to do it. They go about providing that education themselves. Build it up. Literal community help. Now, what used to happen is the government would then take it over. In two ways. There were what you call assisted schools where the government would just give you teachers.
Yes.
Whom they pay for. If you gave it time, they took over the school completely. So it became a government school. This no longer happens. Okay? And the reason was the government understood that they were not just custodians of the welfare of the people, but the development of their peoples. Okay? So they played a key role in ensuring that thing was done. So in fact, many individuals in communities built schools in the hope that they could get the government to eventually take it over.
Yes.
So that it could have. And you know why? You are then guaranteed all the facilities that government schools had. Now, it's the same with hospitals or health facilities. For something to be called a clinic, a health center, a hospital, and then with the various levels, it must have certain facilities. And the standard was set by the government, not the private sector. But what I seem to see, you brought in an angle that I hadn't looked at, but we've privatized the government. So the government is like a private entity.
It's a private entity.
Yes.
And now I'm more concerned now when we go into more robustness of the PPPs and saying, all right, so we are now going to have a better infrastructure and framework for public-private partnerships. If we don't set on the basics and say, okay, but from a certain level below that, the government must play its part. You are going to see your local road being made a PPP. So you have to pay to use that road. This is a good pilot. Where we have a PPP between JKIA and Westlands, you are going to pay a toll to use that road. If you don't want to pay that toll, go down to the traffic. Among the things that have been put in, and this was what was reported earlier with this PPP, is, okay, this private enterprise has to be assured that it's going to be able to make its money after investing so much. So what does that mean? The government cannot put up any other infrastructural project that can compete with this particular one. So you cannot have an alternative that will basically be able to move a lot of traffic out of JKIA towards Westlands.
But Eric, we already
as long as this exists.
In my mind, we already have that facility. This idea of the PPP for the roads, I personally like it. And this is my perspective. If we were able to build that Mombasa-Nairobi highway, remember the Trans-African highway that would end up in Abidjan,
yes,
right? Just think, 6 lanes. I'm dreaming, of course, but please dream with me for a little while.
Okay, just a minute.
Right? Now, I own lorries. If I have an expressway...
Oh, we're still dreaming. Okay.
I'm dreaming.
Okay.
I'm dreaming. It's all a dream. Pipe and all, but dream.
Got
okay?
it.
Do you know I can actually drive my goods to Nairobi and go back to Mombasa on the same day?
On the same day.
That's okay. That's true.
Okay? So it means all this nonsensical congestion that we keep speaking on the roads, I will have enabled people who wish to transport their goods an opportunity to even lower the costs of transportation.
Yes.
Because if I can go, come back the same day, and then wake up the following morning, do the same thing, I'll be able to transport more. I'll be able to meet this congestion we're reading about earlier on in the day in Mombasa. It'll be a story we speak of. Now, what will we be doing? We'll be increasing economic activity.
That's all very true. It's a beautiful dream city, and I support it, and I go with it. My only beef is with the mindset of a private government. Okay? With the mindset of a private... If you don't set in minimums and say, government must provide X, and then the extras are where the public sector is coming to play in, you'll find a government that is not doing anything and therefore just allowing the... saying, okay, this one has to be PPP'd, this one has to be PPP'd. The road between here, from Mombasa Road, where we are connecting to Jogoo Road, PPP. So you'll pay for everything.
You know, Eric,
we have to put in minimums.
We can't run away from the glaring reality that there seems to be some shirking of responsibility here when it comes to what government should actually do and provide. Because it is the easy route to say, all right, let's join up with these fellows who seem to have the money and let them just take over this responsibility. Let them do it.
You know, even if...
And then you hold your people to ransom over something that you should be providing for them that they should be able to use by virtue of the fact that they pay taxes.
You see, the thing about PPPs, and I'm still using my pipe dream,
Okay.
is that the responsibility you have for putting it up is not just putting it up and gaining money ad infinitum. No. There's a point at which it will revert back to that host country.
Yes.
All right? If you look at ports around the world, one of the things that they've done with ports is they privatize berths. Yes, the land is where it is. Think of Singapore, think of Hong Kong, think of Dubai. Just think of any big port. It's a practice that they use, but the net beneficiary is the government. Meaning, come and do your business, but this is how I'm going. Now, where, Eric, I cannot disagree with you, is when you look at a government that seems to feel that they must insist on this uneven relationship they have with their people, where the people give them money so they can do what they like and not look after the lives of the people, then I have to concede it might be a dangerous path. Because what you'll have done is you'll have sold your people out for a song. We'll be paying for everything, even things that we've already paid for. So even the taxation will stop being a problem.
What you don't need to be paying for, you're still paying for.
Yes, we will pay.
But also the thing is, I think there's also a non-realization of the rights of people. That you don't actually realize which rights are yours. And that to say that by the time you're demanding of government, certain things need to come along with those demands. In terms of providing adequate infrastructure, in terms of providing, again, that sustainable environment for business and things like that, in terms of providing solid education and healthcare, it is actually your right as an individual living within the boundaries of this country. It is your right to demand that of the government which you have chosen in now authority over you.
We'll talk about this in the next hour, but I have to mention now something called pork barrel politics. It starts with, say, you having a legislation, and then you sneak in something into that legislation that will benefit just a specific part of your population or a specific community. But because it's part of the larger bill, you've mentioned this here before, one doesn't notice it, but it's something that can be enacted for the benefit of that particular group. And this is what you use as a vehicle to perhaps propel yourself to a different. But in our government, that it isn't something that is sneaked in. It seems to be sneaked in all the time.
It starts from the thought.
Yes.
So what do we need to do now? What we need to do is, these buses. We need to come up with a way in which we own the buses. Okay, so let's come up with a law. A law is introduced that says, okay, you cannot be a member of a SACCO unless you owe this and this and the other.
That's it.
And you're locked out.
Yes.
And we see this developing all the time. Or just basically the government not doing what it's supposed to be doing. Classic example, and I keep repeating it, education. The government stopped doing what it should have been doing in education, and that is how the private sector in education thrived. That is it. You think about taking your child to school today, and the thought that immediately comes to mind is private.
So are we surprised when we get the results that Mudee was talking about here? When now we see it in the papers that comes about that if you look at the national tally, when it came to the assessment that students took when they came back to school, that private schools did better than public schools. We heard from Mudee that, once they take on this sector, they're actually very serious about how they now, teach and how they operate.
But it's a business.
They take it very seriously.
It's a business.
Because the bottom line is really how much that's coming in commercially.
The results.
So if you shirk your responsibility like that, are you surprised at the results that you get? And then your arms are up in wonder and you say, why is it that private schools are actually performing better than public schools and we're offering the same curriculum? Why?
It was set up to be that way.
I mean, consider, for instance, just the size of the class, for instance, the focus that the owners of that institution will put on the learning process, the demands, which you don't find in government schools. In private schools, as Ms. Modeo told us, you don't perform, you go. It's not really complicated.
Yep.
Just like the private sector.
Yes. They set targets for you. You don't meet it. You're asked to simply go elsewhere. It's not so you know. And since you want to thrive and survive and just earn a living, you will actually pull your socks and you will work.
Yep.
But Eric, let me ask this question of you. Privatization in and of itself, in my opinion, is not a negative thing.
No, it isn't.
And the partnership with the private. So, do you think there's a possibility that instead of segmenting this privatization so that it only benefits people who are in positions, high positions of government or related or no people, should the privatization not simply be something that is open to each and everyone to do as they see fit? Because I'm saying it isn't open.
Right now, okay, in some cases you may say it is open. But I come back from a point of there are some things that the government should be making sure that it does.
At the minimum.
The private sector comes to supplement what the government does. Right now, what we have is the other way around. The government talks, and wants the private sector to do. And we have to say no at some point. Why do I have to think about public healthcare? And I'm like, oh my goodness. It should be the number one choice.
It should be the number one choice, but in this...
We should be at a point where right now in Nairobi, if the population of Nairobi has grown by over 2 million people, so it keeps growing by 4 million people accessing Nairobi on a daily basis. Those 4 million people, where do they get access to health services? Are you telling me that it's because the government had not even thought of creating new health facilities? If you look at the ones that had been done before, they were all dilapidated. Are you telling me it's because the government? No, it's because the government sat back, talk, and they can see new hospitals coming up, and they're easy with it. much of the money that we pay as members of, let's say, you pay into NHIF, much of this money is going to the private sector. Much of this money that now the push for BBI is using the term bursary. So you're going to have an increase in bursary for every child. For example, this child in Mathare will pay bursary, will get more money for bursary. But this bursary is basically going to the private sector because that's where the majority of pupils are going. It's not that you're getting bursary of 30,000 shillings going to public facility. No, you're getting 30,000 shillings going to private sector to pay school fees. School in public is free, or at least largely subsidized. So why do you need 30,000 shillings for bursary per term if you're taking your child to a public school? It's all upside down. And I'm saying, no, man, we've got to get to a point where we say, this is what you must give me minimum, and then now tell the public sector to come in and augment
Tell the private
this,
sector to
come
come in and do business.
Explain to me this point where we should say it's enough. What must we see happening before we say okay?
It's already happened, CT. It's happening now.
We just need to open our eyes right now.
It's
and
happening
say, come
right
on,
now.
No.
It's happening now. It's not going to happen in the future. It's happening currently. You as you sit. If somebody gets sick, are you thinking about going to a public hospital at this moment because they're going to be able to provide what you need? No, you're not. You're going to, because then you'll see that everything that you need is available in the private sector and it's not necessarily in the public. Or that the public is so full, everybody is there, you're not going to be able to find a space. So you take the option of going to private because they're not enough. And then we heard the Secretary General of the Kenya Doctors Union. What was he telling us? Every doctor in Kenya has to cater for 10,000 Kenyans right now. And that's in the public sector.
Imagine.
10,000 Kenyans to one doctor. Because they're not enough in terms of facilities. There's not enough in terms of hiring of doctors. Meanwhile, you have doctors standing, waiting for appointments, waiting for jobs. So the option is the private, whereby the alternative should be the private sector. It is the private sector who should be running to government and saying, please give us an opportunity to be able to fix ourselves here and there. But it's the opposite that's happening right now. And it shouldn't be. It really should not be.
So you're asking what needs to happen? We just need to open our eyes right now and ask yourself how much you actually spend out of your monthly budget. How much are you spending supplementing what government should be doing?
That is in addition to the taxes you've already paid.
Yes.
You've paid taxes, and at the same time, you are paying for water. You're looking for, you don't even have access to clean water. You don't have access to sewage. You don't have access to garbage collection. You don't.
Residents,
hey, boss.
Let me give you some examples now. Let's just start at Kitengela and let's come down to where we are right now. Kitengela, people moved in, built their homes. They have to take care of their own security, okay? Then they realize they don't have a water treatment system. 40 million shillings they raised between 2019 and 2020. 40 million shillings. There is a county government operational in Kitengela. Yes? No.
Yes, Kajiado.
They raised 40 million shillings to put up their own treatment plant because they said, you know what? Where is all of this waste going? Where is the waste going? And here we are, residents, moving into one of the dormitory towns of Nairobi. What are we going to do? We cannot have raw sewage on the roads anymore. We put it up by ourselves and there's a government existing there. The roads are a mess. Let's come down to Syokimau. Ask people who live in that area how much they contribute every 3 months to make sure that the roads that they ply every day are fixed so that their vehicles don't get spoiled. So that when it rains or when it's too dry, you don't have rocks jutting out or you have a slippery state of roads because of mud. And there is a Mavoko County government operational in Syokimau. What are we talking about? And you pay taxes.
Basics like security.
What are we
Ask the
talking
same
about?
residents, how much are residents associations paying to just cater for basic security? Even if it's just putting up lighting. We're talking about
Road.
lights.
Airport Road here that borders the airport, borders an international airport. Road has not been sorted out. The residents contributed so that they went to beg Kenya Power to come and put lights on the road so that people who have to walk early in the morning or late at night can at least see where they're going and not have the unfortunate experience of being hijacked by thieves on the road. And there's an operational government.
To which you're paying taxes. Okay. Tumefika hapo. This is it. Well, let's say goodbye to our audience on KTN Home. Follow us in the conversations on Spice FM. If you're in Nairobi, tune in to 94.4. Malindi is 97.7. Nyeri, 90.9. Mombasa, 87.9. 102.5. Kisumu, 96.0. In Nakuru, 96.7. In Eldoret. If you feel as pissed off as I am this morning, would like to hear from you, Spice FM KE, on YouTube, on Facebook and Twitter. Why exactly is our government behaving this way? Is it enough? 5 minutes to 9 o'clock. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. The conversation continues.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. Spice FM. Spice up your life.
Japan, biotechnology, yes! Hey, Samuel, are you into business now? What are you importing from Japan? Knowledge! I'm going to study biotechnology in the best university in Japan. I applied and ta-da! Japan? Yes! You will have to first learn Japanese. No, my friend. They have more than 850 courses that are provided in English and very affordable. Hey, how do I apply? Kuja Osome Japan. Study in Japan Global Network Project brings you an opportunity to study in Japan. Log on to www.studyinjapan-africa.com and apply to study in Japan with over 100 universities providing cutting-edge science and technology courses including the field of robotics, artificial intelligence, AI, environmental studies.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Hardworking Kenyans get up every morning and they have to go out there to eke out a living. They pay for basic services. They pay the country and the county government and the national government taxes and levies. And what kind of service do they get? There's a picture here that our producer John is projecting on our screen, and it's showing a section of Gitanga Road. Okay, so this is just by the roadside. You can see the number of kiosks that have come up. So there's somebody who has come up with a business and they're making furniture and selling furniture. Somebody else has come up with an eatery. They're selling meat, and this is a butchery. They're selling meat, and they're also making some meat. There's a woman here who has decided she's going to be boiling maize and selling boiled maize. And next to all of them is this sewage pit. So it's a huge pothole, and what you have here is basically burst sewer that seeps out from this place. And yet these are eating joints, and I'm sure city council guys will come and arrest them for not wearing what you should be wearing, a white dust coat or something like that, and not paying your Kanjo license. That is the service that you're getting. Basics. You see that basics cover a manhole. How long does it take?
What does it take
for a government to actually just cover a manhole? And you're paying. No, I'm tired.
I got to say something really quickly. And, someone sent a comment and saying that we should get our facts right in terms of that private schools don't perform better than public schools. The truth of the matter is that currently, looking at the national state, they do. Private schools currently are performing better than public schools. The report that came from the Ministry of Education in February was very clear. And we went through the different schematics and we saw the different results from gender to subject to percentages to attendance to everything. And we did see that overall, one of the concerns of the ministry was that private schools were performing better than public schools. So that's not just something that we pulled out of a hat. It's actually something that came out from the ministry themselves.
Overall, if you look at the number of students that end up in the national and extra county schools across the country, and then compare the percentages, see the percentage of children that have passed from private and those that have passed from public, you will see that yes, still the number of public facilities in the country are more than those in private. But what's the quality that's coming out of each of these? Keep it right here for more conversations in the next hour. Thank you very much for tuning into the Situation Room. In the next hour, we see what City has said. What did you call that thing?
Pork barrel politics.
There you go. There you go. Pork barrel politics is the conversation we'll be having in the next hour. This is the Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. Good morning. It's now 9 o'clock.
Spice up your life.
Utawala bumper to bumper this morning. Shikana is what we're being told today. Right, so if we're looking at Gataga Road going towards so there's some serious issues here because of an accident that has taken place there. Muthaiga area, as you're trying to get off from Kiambu Road today, bumper to bumper as well. So we're looking at, tough traffic situations, especially in some areas. It's looking a little bit better coming off of Langata Road and Gong Road, but in the CBD, it is jam-packed. If you're coming from Westlands, we have all that tailback all the way as far back as what was the roundabout through to Huru Highway, and in both directions today. Mombasa Road is a bumper-to-bumper situation between the SGR and General Motors. It opens up again around Bellevue, but then closes again as you go towards the Nyeri Stadium roundabout. So we're looking at slow traffic still in the middle of traffic hour. We'll see what it looks like in about half hour or so. But for now, still pockets of traffic everywhere you look. We're trying to get where we're going safely, guys. Talk to us if you need to. SpiceFMKE on Twitter. Text on 40127.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
2.5 minutes after 9 o'clock. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. It is the Situation Room. Maybe we sample some 2 or 3 comments here.
Sure. Okay, so let's look at what we're talking about in the last hour, and everybody has a little bit of something to say. The public health system is on the verge of total collapse, according to Thomas. Government hospitals in some counties have shut down due to strikes by healthcare workers. Taxpayers are being shortchanged. And Sir Charles says taxes like rain are inevitable. Who approved this system is the question that Alfred Benedict is asking. And so just saying, this is a situation that we are looking at. It actually doesn't look like a pretty one at all. Barnabas Bet says, my thoughts, Kenya has all that it takes in terms of law, strategies, and even mapping of their projects. For instance, ask them to provide you with a copy and you'll get, but don't ask about the expenditure.
Don't ask how much it costs.
No.
Just take the copy. Okay. City, let's begin with today's proverb.
Right. Simple, straightforward, and to the point. When the shepherd comes home in peace, the milk is sweet.
When the shepherd comes home in peace, the milk is sweet.
Mm-hmm.
I just realized this is not only just about sheep.
No, it isn't.
What? You associate shepherd with sheep.
Yes, no. Shepherd, the custodian of the sheep.
Okay. Nisawa.
Nisawa? Okay.
Nisawa basi. So, City?
There's no end to how it is one can describe and the variety of descriptions that one can actually put into force when looking at the sort of politics we have in a country like Kenya. But the consistent theme in our politics, as we have seen it more specifically since the advent of the Uhuru government, is how it is the very processes that are supposed to protect the well-being of the people have consistently and deliberately been utilized, and I mean every aspect of it, to turn around and make it an enterprise that benefits a few. This is something that Kenyans talk about all the time. But what I want to talk about is how this reflects on one of the freedoms that is afforded every citizen of this country. And I'm going to call it the ability to self-determine, the ability to be able to do the things that you think will suit you best. And one of the ways in which people try to do this in this country is by aligning themselves, either that or forming a political party that emanates from your region and is representative of the people from your region, so that the issues that are pertinent to your region can actually be voiced in unison. If you look at the political parties we have in this country, they already represent this, where it starts off with the foundation, the background of a community in one particular area, and then it's propelled to the national level where they now seek to have representation in other parts of the country. This is the formula that has been utilized. Some have attained it, but in some communities, they have done something that you would not have thought was possible. The political party may have changed its name, but the essence of forming that party to serve the needs of that community has not changed. So call it PNU, call it GNU, call it Jubilee, call it KANU, call it Asili, call it Ukweli, call it whatever name you want to call it. Call it orange, call it purple, but the aim is the same. Now, one part of the country that this unity has eluded for the longest time has been the coast. And in many ways, it has been considered that an area like the coast is then fair playing field for anyone who has a political agenda and has a strong political party to garner and gain support from. In the recent past, we saw the Deputy President and his team making a foray into that area and politicizing their agenda and the things that they want. But why this is possible is because they do have people in that region who support their movement. It has been said that the Orange Democratic Party has for the longest time held the biggest sway when it comes to political influence in this country, in that particular part of the country. But now we find a situation where certain members of those communities that are resident at the coast, represented by their governors, and bringing in members of parliament and other interested parties, trying to formulate a party that supposedly would be the vehicle through which the people of that particular area would be able to further their interests. Now, even as I say this, let's start with the two broad definitions. This is what you call upper and lower coast. Upper, Taita Taveta. Lower, let's start with Kwale, which is next door, then go to Kilifi, then go to Tana River, then go to Lamu. The question that comes to my mind is, now that we have a situation as has been reported by our papers that ODM under their troops will be heading towards the coast to drum up support and to sell their agenda. At the same time, in the recent past, we've had the conversation of one political party that represents the coast. Now, of interest, many of these people who have been presenting themselves as leaders in this new party already have political parties that they're aligned to. It's either this or it's either that. So what is this thing that ODM will present to the coast that they haven't presented before? And how is it that they are going to appeal and compete for this nationalistic perspective that this new party is supposed to present that will make the people of the coast look and say, you know, perhaps our lot is still better served if we align ourselves to this party? Or what will those who have been wanting to create a new party now present in the face of this? Because essentially it's a political onslaught that will determine the minds of the people of the coast, to determine that, you know, really, we really do need to have our own vehicle. One of the things that will guarantee this is something you call poke barrel politics. Meaning, if you can convince the people that everything that you're seeing here at some point will be of interest to you and point to something specific. The recent voting that we've seen in the assemblies of the counties points very clearly to this. You bring in an element that anyone looking at will say, you know, this would benefit me. But where the clincher comes in is, it's not everyone. If you talk about increasing the number of constituencies, not everyone in the country will say, we have one more constituency. So you're going to be giving more money, but everybody can say, because if a large portion of the government cake is being issued out, then everybody will get more. But will the interests of the people be served? And how will you know this? Will their life suddenly improve from what it is? Well, those are the questions that need to be answered. And I'm saying, it's not the political party that will improve your life, whether new or old or others. It is the self-determination and how you best wish to express it that will determine that improvement in the lives or the livelihood of the people.
So are you saying then essentially what we're looking at as a tour by the ODM leader, Raila Odinga, then going to the coast then, it's not necessary if the people have already resolved to make decisions as a block, as a coastal block, then this tour then is not necessary?
The tour is absolutely necessary if you're a politician and you're looking for a national vote. Every tour in every part of the country is necessary.
Or is it necessary because of the fact that there's this talk of the need for a coastal political party? Just like we said, look, if we look at what happened when this letter came from Kangata,
Senator Kangata.
Yes, what happened after that was that we saw the president then now calling, members from his party and say, let's have a meeting. So now we hear these talks coming out of the coast saying, you guys, it's time for us to come together and have our own party. It's time for us to now be closer to the center when it comes to decisions that then are made, especially about our region. And then we see the party which, as you say, has had the most sway in that region over time, kind of going into drum support within that region around the same time when they're talking of having their own kind of representation. I don't think it's a coincidence. And if anything, it could be to say, look, there is no reason why you need to break off from everybody else. Here we are pushing your agenda, whether it's the agenda for raising the level of your economic ability, whether it's working for the youth, whatever it is in the area. We as ODM can actually do that. So essentially, there is no need for you to form your own. We've always held sway in this region. I'm coming back to tell you that, we can keep doing that. There's no need for you to break off and do your own thing. We can still hold your interests at the heart of this party. Would this have happened had the talks of this kind of quote-unquote breakaway had not started?
You've actually brought in a different discussion. It can dovetail into what we're saying, but let me address it. Since we're talking about political parties, their intentions, their purposes, and the things that they hope to achieve, now this is with hindsight. With hindsight, I seem to think that there was a plan all along by the proponents, say, of the BBI. I don't think that Kangata's letter or anything is what propelled the decisions about meeting or talking at Sagana. I don't think so. It just happens to be one of those things that happened. But that meeting was going to be called anyway. That discussion was going to take place anyway, the way I see it. And that the coastal politicians feel that they need to have their own political party. If you ask me, I think it's a conversation that has taken place before, and we've said this. It was going to, in my mind, it was going to take place anyway. Let me explain what I mean. If you look at the conversation and how it began, look at the governors at the coast. The Kwale governor has had his 2 terms. End of story for him. What next? The governor of Mombasa, 2 terms. After that, the governor of Kwale, same story. The only difference that you have is in Taita Taveta, Lamu, Tana River. All right? But if you know the coastal area, these places are so different. The needs are so diversely different that when you're talking about forming a party to meet the needs, what are you talking about exactly? These needs that you are talking about. Look at Lamu. The blue economy is at the center of their livelihood. All right? What is this thing that you have in blueprint that will, for instance, address that particular need? They already have the sea. They already have the fish. They're already fishermen.
They need the port.
Yes. So how does the building it is all good and well. How is the port going to help their lives? How?
That's
By the way, If you talk about water, even Kilifi County has some water. The only county in that region that doesn't have water is Taita Taveta. Only. Kwale has water. Mombasa has water. So
Tana River has a river.
Tana River has a river. But the point I'm trying to make here is this. What on earth are you saying that you are going to do with this coastal party that will ensure that something that hasn't happened to the people of the coast since independence is going to happen now? What is it?
See, the thing is, you start from the point of many have come here and they've promised us that they're going to do things. But the reason why they come and they promise to fight for you is because they understand that all of you have some things that are common. They have challenges that are common and are unique to the people of the coast. Those are there, and that's why when, for example, ODM is strong in the coast, it's because ODM has gone and sold a certain narrative and said, we are the ones who are going to be able to make sure that all these challenges that you've been having for so many years, that, for example, maybe feeling like you're marginalized, you've never really had a seat at the table, you've never really had your conversations taking place, this is going to happen. If the people of the coast have gotten to a point where they're like, we have supported this ODM since 2007. Now it's 2021. The things that were happening then and the things that are happening now, it's not because ODM has really been able to go to Parliament and champion them. It's not because ODM has actually been able to deliver them. ODM has been the majority and the stronghold leader of all our counties. It's not because ODM has been able to deliver them at the county level. Hey, wait a minute. Maybe at the national level, ODM does not really consider us. So we need to have a vehicle that puts us right there as number one on the agenda.
And what helps that
we are
narrative?
Number 7 on the ODM agenda.
Right. And what helps that narrative in terms of propelling it is when you have governors like Mvurya, for example, who does things in Kwale County that 10 years ago had never been done before. Who raises his
Not
profile?
10 years ago,
right?
Since independence.
Since independence had never been done. A son of their own soil who is actually getting something done. Then you want to come and tell them the promises that you've made to them over and over and over again. They've not seen it being done by you necessarily. So then they're thinking, wait a minute, we can actually do this thing for ourselves. And now when that conversation begins to rumble, then you can't say that those who are in the party that has held sway for the longest time in that region are not going to start to sweat and think, hold on a minute, we might actually start to lose traction here.
And that party cannot argue that, it has not been in government. No.
It's been front and center.
It has been Nusumkata government, it was a government. All right? In this particular government, it has influence. In the last government, it had the majority. It could hold sway in what is happening in the counties. It even had the numbers in Parliament. So what is it? How many things, how many bills, how many motions, how many petitions have been taken to the National Assembly on behalf of the coast people and have been championed by this party?
May I ask a different question? The MPs, the members of Parliament, who are the direct representatives of their people, who belong to this party but come from that particular region, what is it that they have done? Yes, they got in on a ticket that was ODM, specifically now, or some other, but what have they individually done? Because at the end of the day, ODM is the vehicle that you use to get elected, but surely it is you who is elected to go and represent your people. Yes. Once you're in Parliament, it is you who should be addressing the issues that your people want to have addressed.
Yes, and they'll argue that maybe they've tried, and then they don't get the backing of their fellow ODMers. When Ngoja to discuss next time, or one time or the other. If you don't have a loud enough voice to actually raise those issues, then your issues are just...
Why don't you have a loud enough voice?
Because you're not getting support from your party.
Do you really need support?
Yes, you do.
The late Karisa Maitha was a person who actually joined the Kibaki government.
Yes.
All right?
Yes.
He wasn't part of this bandwagon of people who were anti-government as it was presented at that particular time. But he was not called the hurricane just for the heck of it. He was called the hurricane because he moved things.
Yes.
He was somebody who spoke. He was somebody who presented himself as somebody who has the interest of the coastal. It's what he did.
Yes.
Right? And he was also loud about it.
Yes.
Ndu has given the example of a coastal leader in the name of Mvurya who isn't loud in the things he says, but he's really very loud.
And then look at what ODM did to him.
Yes.
See? He was doing that, and look at what ODM did to him.
Precisely.
So that's why now I was saying, if this political party is really, even when one of us is trying to come up, you become the vice chairman of the Council of Governors. Instead of supporting you to rise to become the chairman of the Council of Governors, they abandon you. Why did Mvurya not become the chairman of the Council of Governors? He was Isaac Ruto's deputy. He should have risen to become chairman. ODM controlled the number of
they're called county governors.
County governors.
Yes.
Right? So they had the numbers. They could have made Mvurya just rise.
But it's absolutely true.
Abandoned him. Left the party.
And then he decided to do it on his own.
There's a different narrative that has come into play here. And the narrative has brought in or pulled in the governor of Mombasa. And the narrative has been that he is not working for the unity of this coastal party, that he's pulling away from it. And the accusations in that direction were directed, or at least it is said emanated from the governor of Kilifi. Okay? Now, what am I saying? I'm saying that perhaps what we're discussing here, or what I should have been looking at, is what it would take for the people of the coast to speak in one voice. Because even from this discussion, it is clear it isn't that unitary voice. People have gone, met in Taita Taveta, there's been an accord agreed at, that's it. But the voices coming out thereafter are different, which tells me one thing, that politically speaking, even within the coast, if you pull aside, they move away from political parties we have in the nation, there seems to be a push and pull for somebody to be the supreme leader of the coastal region.
Yes, they need to support one of their own. 21 minutes after 9, let's take a break and see what's the weather going to look like in various towns and cities of the world. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
Japan, biotechnology, yes! Hey, Samuel, are you into business now? What are you importing from Japan? Knowledge! I'm going to study biotechnology in the best university in Japan. I applied and ta-da! Japan? Yes! You will have to first learn Japanese. No, my friend. They have more than 850 courses that are provided in English and very affordable. Hey, how do I apply? Kuja Osome Japan. Study in Japan Global Network Project brings you an opportunity to study in Japan. Log on to www.studyinjapan-africa.com and apply to study in Japan with over 100 universities providing cutting-edge science and technology courses including the field of robotics, artificial intelligence, AI, environmental studies, information technology, and many more. Not only postgraduate but undergraduate level is also covered. Mention our course, you will not fail to get it. Visit our website today on www.studyinjapan-africa.com.
All right, it looks like the clouds and the sun are going to do a dance today in Nairobi. 20 degrees. We'll see highs of 28 today. Nyeri is partly sunny at 18, highs of 26 and lows of 13. 29 the high in Nakuru today. It's mostly cloudy. It's sunny in Eldoret throughout today. Highs of 26, highs of 31 in sunny Kisumu. It's also sunny in Kakamega today at 26, going to highs of 32. We'll also see highs of 32 in Mombasa. It's mostly sunny as well. It's also sunny in Malindi. Highs of 31. Kampala experiencing light rain this morning through most parts of the morning, going to highs of 28. It's going to be mostly cloudy in Dar es Salaam today throughout most of today, highs of 32. We'll see highs of 22 in Johannesburg, warming up ever so slightly now at 13 and mostly sunny. It's also mostly sunny in Lagos now. The rain has gone. Highs of 33 and lows of 27. It's mostly sunny in Kinshasa at 25, highs of 34. We're looking at 5 degrees in Beijing throughout today into early evening now. 3 the high and lows of -5. It's 1 degree and clear skies in Paris, highs of 14 and lows of 2. Hazy London is saying 6 degrees now. It'll go to highs of 9 and down to lows of 4. And coming into Monday morning, New York is cloudy. We'll see highs of 11 and lows of -5.
Spice and everything nice. All right.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
24 minutes after 9 o'clock. The conversation continues looking at the politics and the organization of politics in the coast. So you're saying they're not even speaking with one voice yet?
Well, the discordance that I am hearing clearly cannot be referred to as one voice. But
how wide is that discordance?
I'm not saying it as though it's a
I
negative
think if you look
thing.
at it this way, and this is why I'm saying,
Yes.
if you look at the sort of formation of regional blocks in the
Yes.
country, well, we have the Lake Basin Regional Block, we've got the Mount Kenya Area Regional Block. One of the ones that has actually been very, very steadfast and vocal and seemingly united in having a structure is this one of the coast, Jumuiya ya Counties za Pwani. They're the ones that were meeting in Taita Taveta the other day. They're the ones that elected now. Samboja is going to be the chair. They even have a proper formation of a rotational leadership. And they know this, you're going to be our leader. This is what you're going to be championing in the next. They have organized themselves. So this discordance that you see, how wide is it or how loud is it?
I honestly don't know. And I wish some of our callers who come from that region would call in and tell us what they think. Because you see, why do I talk about discordance? The discordance started becoming even more obvious immediately after that summit and that agreement and that understanding. Okay? Why did I talk about just the vast differences in these particular counties? It's because the differences exist. So if you think Tana River are going to have the same issues as the Taita Taveta, you're mistaken. They won't. If you think Lamu is going to have the same issues as Kwale, they may not.
Yep.
So what I'm saying is, perhaps instead of looking at these issues, you need to look and ask yourself, what sort of leader do we have who will be able to comprehend, I'm talking about our local leaders, who will be able to comprehend this diversity and address them as they are needed. You see, I have to look at the Kwale governor. Shimba Hills is very, very different because Shimba Hills doesn't have any water body next to it, so to speak, like the Indian Ocean. But it is part of Kwale. It's a farming area. If we move closer to the sea, again, you encounter the blue economy. All right? What am I trying to say? I'm giving these two examples to say that if you don't understand and you haven't demonstrated an understanding in actually ensuring that the diverse needs of your community is met, as we speak now, what guarantee is that if you're given a bigger role, you're going to be able to meet that particular need?
Well,
That's really the question I'm asking.
And this is what I'm saying. Not all their needs are the same.
No, they're not.
But they have some common needs.
They do.
And that is what they start with. It's just like there's no region. Even now, if we talk about the Nyanza region, the people of one county and the people of a different county don't have the same needs.
No, they don't.
But we talk about Nyanza. Or even Western. We talk about Western. Talk about Mount Kenya. Mount Kenya, start from here in just beyond Kawangware. Mount Kenya starts and go all the way to the end of Meru, bordering Garissa County. All that is called Mount Kenya. Of course, their needs are not the same. But they've got something that is common. Either they look at, we come from the same region, we speak almost similar languages. There's something.
Well, in terms of
and
what their
it's the same
needs
thing
are.
about their coast.
Yeah, in terms of what the needs are, in terms
Like
of
you
resources,
say, when you talk
them.
about the blue economy in the coast is touching how many counties? Kwale, Mombasa, Kilifi, Lamu. Touches them. And then they also look at, so where is our water coming from? Our water is coming from the Shimba Hills, it's coming from Taita. So they have things that are common.
You know, Eric,
the issue of land,
studies
it's big, that has cut across.
Yes, it has. Actually, if you talk about land, it is the one issue that has united the coast for the longest time. It is the one issue that has made it possible for someone like the leader of the ODM to present himself as a champion for their causes, because if you look at his political history, he has championed the cause of what you would call the common man, or championed the cause of what would be referred to as trying to balance this inequality which exists. So long as you're seen as representing that.
Yep.
But worse still, when it comes to the issue of land, if there's one huge beef, people of the coast will tell you, is that despite the advantages that their land has provided for them, they as the people have never benefited from this, or they cannot count on any benefit that they have seen from these natural benefits that they have.
Another thing that they will continue to tell you is that to say that, it is unfortunate that the number of people who are poor and destitute are still at that number in that area to date.
Some are even poorer than they were before.
Poorer than they were 20 years ago,
Yep.
poorer than they were 10 years ago,
Yep.
poorer than they were when the promises of them throwing their support behind a particular party and the way they are today.
So there's a commonality
Yeah.
in terms of their needs.
Across board, they're
And
saying
that's why
this is
you'll
what
see
we
actually,
need.
even the Uhuru administration has been working very hard at addressing the land issue. If you look at the number of times that the president has actually gone to the coast to give out title deeds.
I like your sense of humor, Eric. Why I'm saying I like your sense of humor. This particular government, if there is one, well, there are several, but the one area where there is not, this is not double speak, this is quadruple speak.
Yeah.
It's land, okay? Issuing title deeds isn't sorting out the land problem. It is a show of trying to sort out the land problem.
Yeah.
If today we're talking about the National Land Commission and just the gymnastics and the games that they have played, the issue of land at the coast remains unresolved as I speak. Now, if a leader wants to find commonality, and you've correctly put it, let them come up and tell their people how it is they're going to resolve this land issue that these people have had and still have. My friend, it's a thorny issue at the coast. It's an extremely thorny issue. So, all these leaders that we've mentioned so far, the only person who in my mind seems to have dealt with the issue of even trying to raise the levels of livelihood among their people is the governor of Kwale, full stop, in my mind. The other governors in my mind seem to be playing catch up.
Catch up? I don't think they're in this game. I think there's this, the playground is here, and I
They're
think there's some people
addressing the needs of their people.
They're in the locker room and the game is going on.
That is why this conversation has some traction on the ground. And it's not the first time. We need to have somebody, one of us, speaking our language, going up there to speak that language.
Not just coming to us to talk at us when
Yes.
you need our vote and then
And then we
disappearing
give
for the
you
next 5
we
years.
give you that mandate and
Yeah.
you go, and then we realize that actually you don't even understand our issues. It's
Eric, I'm not-
29 minutes to 10. Let's take a break. Let's look at traffic, and then we'll hear what City wants to say. And then open up the phone line. We'd like to hear from you. 0719-012-600.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
Japan, biotechnology, yes! Hey, Samuel, are you into business now? What are you importing from Japan? Knowledge! I'm going to study biotechnology in the best university in Japan. I applied and ta-da! Japan? Yes! You will have to first learn Japanese. No, my friend. They have more than 850 courses that are provided in English and very affordable. Hey, how do I apply? Kuja Osome Japan. Study in Japan Global Network Project brings you an opportunity to study in Japan. Log on to www.studyinjapan-africa.com and apply to study in Japan with over 100 universities providing cutting-edge science and technology courses including the field of robotics, artificial intelligence, AI, environmental studies, information technology, and many more. Not only postgraduate but undergraduate level is also covered. Mention our course, you will not fail to get it. Visit our website today on www.studyinjapan-africa.com.
Traffic.
Okay, so still some traffic in certain parts of the city today. A little bit on Mombasa Road trying to get into the CBD. Jogo Road looks a lot better now as you're trying to then approach Landis Road and into the CBD as well. It's flowing not bumper to bumper anymore. Where it is bumper to bumper is going to be Uhuru Highway, at least for a significant part of the morning. So plan for that. If you're headed into the city, avoid Uhuru Highway if you can, or if you're in a hurry, or if you feel like just, taking in the scenery and seeing what town looks like, then you might want to be on that road. Otherwise, don't. Apart from that, I don't think we have too many other headaches right now. Thika Road is still moving slowly, but bumper to bumper things have ended. All right? Let's talk through the morning, see what it looks like in your neck of the woods. SpiceFM KE on Twitter or text on 40127.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
26 minutes to
94.4.
10 o'clock. So for a number of years now, ODM has been the dominant party in the coastal region. That is looking at all the counties in the coast: Kwale, Taita Taveta, Tana River, Kilifi, Lamu, Mombasa. And then recently we've seen the forays being made by the Deputy President ahead of the 2022 election. And then we've also seen conversation coming out of coastal leaders saying we need to form our own coastal party, have our own voice, our own representation of coastal issues actually coming from the coast. And now the leader of ODM is actually going to the coast to have a couple of rallies in the coming days where it's being reported, he is going to try and win back the people and try and solidify his stronghold on the region. Siti Muga is asking now, with regards to those who are saying, let's form our own coastal party, how significant is it going to be? How different will a coastal party be from what we have seen before? ODM in the coast, Jubilee in the coast, Wiper in the coast. How different is it going to be?
Well, look at regions whereby you have somebody or you have significant representation, and then that area is actually developed. Look at what's currently happening in Kisumu and Western specifically. Look at the infrastructure that's taken place there, whereby certain people have complained about certain things, whether it's agriculture, whether it's fisheries and things like that. Look at the conversations that are taking place now under the would-be supervision of the Kisumu County governor. Look at the support that comes out of that. And many people will say, well, there you go. You have somebody who is seated at national politics, and the assumption would be that the development in your area, development of infrastructure and making things better, is because you have somebody who is representing you at the national level, and those benefits would then trickle down to your region, whether you like it or not. So they're coming probably from the same area, from the same point that, look, for the longest time we have been in this situation. People in Lamu, Taita Taveta, crying for another thing, education. We don't have enough schools. Our young ones, we don't have enough to educate our young ones. We want to go to school, but then they're not enough for us. One thing, the poverty issue that we talked about, the land issue that we talked about. So in their minds, it's, look, if we had somebody from amongst us who understands inherently the issues that we continue to complain about today, if we had somebody representing us there, and if we can come together and make the selection of said individual, perhaps we'll also see these benefits trickling down now that we've been begging about for the longest time. And it makes sense to me.
Representation.
It makes sense to me. You've seen it happen in other areas. Yeah, people who understand you, when they're clamoring for these issues on a national level, they understand it from deep inside. So they're making the
it
case.
It is personal for them.
So they're making the case for those issues because they get it.
How many people, that parties that are native to the coast exist, is just a simple fact. They exist.
Yes.
And what Amason Kingi, the governor of Kilifi, had said was, he said, we don't want to form a new party. We just want to bring together all these parties.
And speak with one voice.
Yeah, and speak with one voice. All right, let me ask this very simple question. How many members of parliament do you know of who've been elected in any of these parties? Kadu Asili, Shirikisho?
I don't know.
I don't either.
But when it comes to Kadu Asili, they used to have an MP, right?
And then?
The MP died.
He died.
There's a point I'm trying to make here, and it's not a very complicated point. When you have other parties who are more powerful than what you may call your local voices, then you need to ask yourself, what is it about these parties that appeals to our people? Because at the end of the day, it's your people who are voting. It's not somebody else. It's the very people you want to represent who are casting the vote. And in asking this question, you also need to ask, what is it then that we must do or we must be so that we are as appealing? Because ODM is appealing as a party because it has a leader who has been appealing.
Okay.
In the absence of Raila Odinga, ODM would not be what it is.
Yes.
It's not complicated.
And therefore, Raila has been appealing to the coastal people because of what he said. When he goes to them, he says, I get your issues. I am the one who wants to go and champion your issues at the top level. Yes. Okay? I'm seeing a question here from Alfred Benedict Abul, who says, not a question, but a comment. He says, Raila has never gotten the chance to sort out the land issues because he's never been fully in charge of the government. I want to let you know, my friend, the Nusumkate government, Raila had the land docket. It was under Orengo.
Could
No, it was under Orengo.
That's what I'm saying. Could have done something about it.
Yes.
So he had the opportunity. So, back to the issue. Raila has come. He has presented himself as the man who's going to champion the issues. Okay? Now we are seeing some sort of, disquiet from the leaders because they're feeling, even after we entrusted you with that, we still haven't seen like you've delivered. Number one. Number two, we also need to start coming up with plan B. Because we can't always just be depending on Raila. We also need to have a plan B. And that's where we need to start forming our plan B right now. So that even if we say we are supporting Raila, who else can we support? Who else can go and champion our issues? And it's important for them to do that.
I couldn't agree with you more. Who are these people who are going to do? Because we're not talking about just forming a party or bringing parties together. We're talking about replacing an influence that already exists.
Uh-huh.
So what is this thing that you are going to do so that you present yourself as a viable replacement for the influence that already exists?
That journey, they have just begun.
That journey
they're heading somewhere.
Actually, I'm saying that.
Okay, they have revived the journey. Yes. They'd gotten to a point, they got a flat tire, they didn't have spare.
Actually,
now someone has come and said, okay, you guys, brand new tires.
Let's do this thing.
Actually,
let's move.
I'm saying that they have talked about the journey. So far, it's talk. So far, it's just talk. And it isn't talk that hasn't been heard before. It's not. It's talk that has been heard before. What
for you would represent action that is different from the talk?
What would represent action for me is if I could actually hear and see when all these other big political parties and their leaders come to the coast, when they also represent, if there's a rally, they say, okay, look, we understand this is what you're doing, but we as coastal people, this is us representing this, and this is meaning the dialogue is that if you want to deal with people at the coast, stop coming here as an independent party. You're going to work with us. And how that will make sense is if this amalgamation of theirs can actually get people elected in.
But it will get there, City.
And I'm trying to tell you that if you live in a country like Kenya where talk takes precedence in almost everything we do.
If you get to a point where you can clearly hear the talk, it means something. Let's hear from Brian, though, and then we come and continue here. Brian in Nakuru, good morning.
Morning, guys.
How are you?
What I really wanted to contribute today to this topic is this.
Yes.
Kenya, currently, all the towns is going to either Kisumu or a metropolitan town, which means different people are going to come, different ethics and different things. I can't refuse the towns like Kisumu. We have a certain tribe which is big as like Kericho, Nyeri. We have the simple tribes which are big there. But that doesn't mean, since they are staying there, the issues that they are facing there is theirs. Even me moving there and moving to Nyeri, I'll have my own issues there.
Yep.
And that means we should get a single person who knows the issues that each and every person is fighting for and will champion for a reformative agenda whereby each and everybody is empowered and we solve each and every issue. The issue about land is where we fail. From 1953, since we got independence, the first corruption cases began with land. People died because of land. Yogama Pinto was killed because of land. So the issues about of land, we cannot deal with them now, with the same families that are there, the so-called dynasties that is. They are the ones that they're telling us they are going to solve the issue about land, and they are the ones who took all of our land. So if it's about land and regional issues, it's just the people living in an area, let's accept the newcomers who are coming there. We sit, we talk, and we give out a person who is going to champion our ideas and is going to push for a transformative agenda for the whole region.
Brian,
like in Nakuru. Yeah?
Can I ask you, so if we say then it's the people who are resident of that area who then elect a leader who represents them, right?
Yeah.
Not the people of this area representing a leader from across another village to represent their issues. Electing somebody from another village.
Even if you elect another person from another village, but it's going to elevate the issues and my problems. I don't find that's not where the problem comes right now. Kenyans are thinking let's give another person, let's say in terms of presidency, we are being told we cannot have only two tribes. If we gave another tribe, before the other person even becomes even worse than the two tribes that we had, we could have better left in the two tribes. So I don't care if you are from the next village or from wherever you are, but if you are going to address our issue, if you are going to address...
Brian, can I ask you a question, please? Huh?
Yeah.
When you say giving a chance to new people, are you suggesting that we should look for people who've never been in the political space, or people who've been in the political space but have never held a position of authority? What do you mean by new people?
We should look for better ideas. All of us, I remember 2013, 2017 when we were going for election, we were given here promises by the Jubilee government, and I told people, these people, they are not going to deliver anything. They don't have a track record of delivering. We were told stadiums, the jobs, even we are still struggling. So these people don't have, you should look for a person who has a track record of delivery. Like Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga. When he went into power, he used to have poor roads all over Kenya, but the guy delivered. So we should look for people who deliver. Let's look for storytellers. How are you going to build for me a college in my area where you have never even built a public latrine for the market? So we should look for people who are going to deliver.
Track records.
We look at your track records. What have you done? Raila has been fighting for this land since. He's been dead for Kenya.
Has he delivered?
He has gone to, and he hasn't delivered. Then little he was there, he played his part. Number 6 cannot be scoring goals and going back against the defense, but he can help in supplying the balls.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you. Let's hear from Jimmy in Malindi. Good morning, Jimmy.
Good morning, too.
How are you today?
Yes. I'm fine, thank you. I thank God. Okay, going straight to the point, yes. I would like, I don't know if I'm on point, but I would like to talk about the Chama Chapwani. This the political instability and political party and groupings in the coast. If you hear that, someone saying that in the coast province, especially me, I'm from Malindi, that we are going, and Governor Kingi is our governor here, we are going to unite the people from the coast. Let's have one party. If we hear of anything like that, it is normally called political groupings. It is like someone trying to show that he has the say in the coast province, lying to the people, because this thing about Chama Chapwani, every time election is nearing, you'll hear people saying that, tunataka kufanya Chama Chapwani, wapwani tuwalete pamoja, tuweze kuangalia masala ya, we look at our issues pertaining land, issues pertaining, we have been marginalized, people from the coast, and people follow these people because they see it's a doorway to their success. But after some time, the people fighting for Chama Chapwani, the second thing you hear that, we are supporting a certain leader, we are supporting someone from ODM, we are supporting someone from Jubilee. These are the people who are going to support, help us in solving our issues. The other day, Joe is saying he wants to vie for presidency, which I believe he can. And I believe he's capable, because everybody is capable of that. If you have the willing power, you can. And he says the Chama Chapwani, wapwani tuje pamoja. Then the second thing you hear, he's putting his presidential bid
in ODM.
On ODM.
Why doesn't the Chama Chapwani story ever gain traction and sustain?
It will never, because most of the things that are happening in Pwani, they are beyond Wapwani.
Like
this was the Mau Mau dumping site. If you do anything wrong, you would be brought to the coast as a Mau Mau and work here. Our forefathers were brought in this place as slaves, as people who have rebelled on the colonial rule. So the agreement was between the colonizer and Sultan, the protectorate.
Okay, so the issues of the coast are not only for the coast. So what issues are these that are not only for the coast?
That's where I'm going. So now the land was given to Sultan, and Sultan shared this land to the Arabs and the Boharas, the people from here, Oman, from inside. You see? So now the locals who are here, they were considered to be slaves and people of no interest. It's like the way you just go and acquire new land and then you chase away the monkeys. But I'm not saying that as an hate speech. No, I'm saying that because that's how it was. So men were sold outside. We know how to get the ruins here, which was a slave trade place, and all other history, which we cannot go to that now. So now, if the colonial time, the title deeds, and the land owned by the colonizers in the Kenyan side was recognized, and also for the Sultan had to still be recognized. We have the Mazurui there. We have the Faisal area.
Jimmy, I want you to get to the point.
Tingo. So now the point is that the problem of the coast will never be solved until we look at the injustice which were done during the colonial period. Not before, not after colonial period.
Who is best placed
during
to
the
champion?
Colonial period?
Who's best placed to champion that?
The person who's going to champion that is anybody, because the Constitution clearly stipulates that anybody with any issue pertaining rights or pertaining injustice, anything, he can go to the commission, he can also go to the court or to parliament. So if the Kenyans and the citizens come to realize the rights, this 80% nice part of the new constitution, then people to take that and the minds of the people to be enslaved from the issues that their leaders will help them, and they stand for their rights, then we will solve this. But as long as we will remain to be told what to do, and the only way you can be kept to remain to be told what to do is by people denying you food and putting the economy so hard
So
on
your
you.
point,
Don't
Jimmy, is that coast, this Chama cha Pwani cannot work. It cannot deliver the promise that the people of the coast would like.
It can deliver, it can work, but as long as it remains solidarity with the other people from
other regions,
outer Pwani region, but not to segregate themselves. We segregate ourselves, and then we say we will do it alone. That's a lie.
Okay.
That's a naked lie.
I hear you. Thank you, Jimmy.
Thank you.
0719-012-600. Do you think this idea could work? Is Raila's coast tour significant? The ODM leader is set to visit the counties of the coast area: Taita Taveta, Mombasa, Kilifi, Kwale, Tana River, Lamu. All of these, apart from Taita Taveta, touch ocean. There you say touch tarmac. All of them touch ocean. So they have issues that are common to them. There are issues that would require some united voice. And that's what they've been trying to say. Amason Kingi and the others are saying, let's come together, speak, so that whoever then comes to speak to us, speaks to us from this particular point. And that's what you were saying, Siti, when you're saying, you would expect them to go, okay, if it's Ruto who has come, they say, we, the coastal people, these are our issues. You come and talk to us. These are our issues. But Jimmy is telling us that's what has been happening before. And come, these are our issues. Okay, isn't it a sort?
I'll sort this out.
It a sort. Then you go and forget.
And it has not happened.
Now they're like, we are taking the issues ourselves to Nairobi.
And I'm saying that, you see, the issue of, well, let me use a term that is used by civil society, the word capture in this context. In the absence of strong leadership, or leadership that seems to not only speak the aspirations of the people, but also ensure that the people experience a lived experience of what it is that they say. Meaning you say, but you can see them doing it. Then, unfortunately, the people aren't left with very much of a choice as to which path to follow. Because the very people who they believe are their local leaders, in their minds, will not represent the essence of what they want represented.
They're not strong enough.
And yet, there is no reason why they shouldn't.
But it's just that they have not been.
Yes, there's no reason why they can't. None whatsoever, except if they give themselves reason, or if they choose the lazy path of simply affiliating yourself to a party that is already
a bigger
one and has more say and has more resources, and if that is the case, then you will be swallowed up, and your issues will be among all the other issues that those parties deal with, but it will not be a priority.
Okay.
So the issue of the coastal party, or the amalgamation of it, is an excellent idea if indeed you want to have a unified voice, to have your issues given priority.
Let's hear from Esther in Mombasa. Morning again, Esther.
Morning again. I am just feeling so low when I hear about the land in Mombasa, because I am, is it a beneficiary of being married in this region or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
When I grew up, my land in the other side of Mount something, all the land, I found
we have many mountains, beginning with Mount Ngong.
No, the Central Mountain. My mom's side, you grew up as children. We had a place. I would go and know this is home. The normal way, the normal setup of this is a gate, this is fence, and you're told from here to here is your shamba. From there to there is shamba. And it went on and on until generations, maybe till where my dad reached or something. Then I am married in this other region. And I come and discover, okay, kwetu ni wapi? Naambiwa hapa ni kwetu from the ancestral perspective. Then I say, okay, so where is the demarcation? Because this may bring conflict in the... No. Then you are told, this is how we have lived all this time. So that is a mentality. So what should be done next? I am not aware of what really the historical would have been or how everything was done. But there is massive land in the coast. Then I wonder, why are these people not being given their constitutional right of land? Why are there no titles being distributed? It is as simple as having the president has come to our county. The former land minister has come, I think, 2 or 3 times. The first lady has been there. I mean, all the five coastal counties, they have come in person. They even came at some point to issue the title. And then wrangles came through these representatives who come and say, oh, blah. So within ourselves, we may want to get that. But there's a representation. There's the people who can not go all of them and say we want this, our right and everything. You need a voice to go do the representation, because that's what we are used to. Now, you find after 20 years, 30 years, you still cannot say this is my rightful land. That in itself is a problem. Because we are in Africa and Kenya. We believe in inheritance. I believe city should give his children some inheritance. Whether or not they will stay there or not, it is our culture.
They need to do that.
But
Esther, just cutting you short and going to the point.
Yes.
Then the issue of having a coastal voice in politics.
No, it doesn't apply. It doesn't apply because the coastal voice, first of all, is he interested in? And is that a priority in their agenda? You have things that are called deliverables. I did this, not in your era. I did this that was rightfully my agenda as a leader. In Kwale, a leader, in Tana River. You know the portions you have of the documentation. So what is the problem? You're not telling us why you have not gotten the title. That is what we want. We don't want the other bigger things. Tuambie kwa nini titles hatujapewa na hii ndio land. So it ends up going like that, and within no time, since all the land then belongs to the government, what will happen? They will come and say, we need this. So we have governor. Governor is a very big person representing the whole county. Why is the land not demarcated?
Big issues.
Simple.
Esther, well, thank you very much for your call. Asante sana. Have a lovely day.
Thank you.
Right, as we come to the close of the hour and the end of the show, City, today's proverb.
When the shepherd comes home in peace, the milk is sweet.
Shepherd is going to the coast.
Well, shepherd is going to the coast. Shepherd has been to the coast before. Let us see if that milk will continue being what it is.
Do you think he's happy?
Happy?
As he's going? Or
I
is he
would
concerned?
use hopeful rather than happy.
Expectant.
Yes.
Okay.
Because if the hope is realized, then one can be happy.
I think he's concerned.
He should be.
I think he is concerned.
I think he's going there not because he's happy. He's not going there, not triumphant now. He's going there with a lot of trepidation.
But these are good things for a political system. political systems need to be shaken up. Political parties need to be shaken up so that people can sit, think, reorganize their minds and look at the evolving interests of the people whom they represent. If these things don't happen, then people will simply be comfortable to sit where they're sitting and be happy with whatever's going on, and yet the people they represent are not as happy.
All right. I bet he's going to make various promises of things that he can still do for the people of the coast. And they will listen. Thank you very much for tuning into the Situation Room today. Join us again tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. Nduoko, C.T. Muga, and Eric Latif saying goodbye. Listen to uninterrupted music until 3 o'clock. It's now 10 a.m.